in one piece. At the beginning, it merges with One Punch Man. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1: Activating the Saitama Template. East China Sea, Ski Island Naval Branch Base. Look, that loser has started doing meaningless exercises again. A woman can do this amount of exercise without even taking a breath. I've seen him doing this for 3 years, but it's useless. If the colonel hadn't protected him, a loser like this would have died in the hands of pirates. 4 or 5 Navy soldiers stood aside, pointing at Bai Ye, who was not far away, and sneered loudly. Then these people said a few more words indifferently, full of contempt. However, Bai Ye seemed not to hear their words and continued to squat on his own. After saying that, several people also felt bored and dispersed. 98, 99, 100. After Bai Ye finished 100 squats, his legs trembled and he barely stood up and wiped the sweat. There are only 100 push-ups left. After doing push-ups, I can really activate the system. Thinking of this, Bai Ye's handsome face showed some expectation, and his eyes were bright. Since crossing over 3 years ago, his identity has become the son of a Navy soldier who has died in battle. As a standard configuration for crossovers, Bai Ye naturally also has an external system, the One Punch Man template system. One Punch Man Saitama, his strength is at the ceiling level in the One Punch world. In that world, no matter who is as strong as Saitama, it is as far away as billions of galaxies. The power of Saitama's full strength punch can even penetrate the earth. The speed is so fast that it only takes a few breaths to get from the earth to the moon. I don't know how much higher the force value is than the pirate world. The power of this external plugin is ridiculously strong. But if you want to activate the One Punch Man template system, the conditions required are quite pitfalls. Bai Ye must follow Saitama's exercise method: 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and 10 kilometers of long distance running every day. It can be more but not less, and it must be persisted for 3 years without interruption to successfully activate the system. For this reason, Bai Ye has been working hard to achieve his training goals in the past 3 years. But such exercise can only play a weak role in the pirate world. And because of the rules of the system, Bai Ye did not participate in the training that a Navy soldier should have. This made Bai Ye's strength almost improve in the past 3 years. But because Colonel Vaughn was concerned about Bai Ye's father who died in the war and Bai Ye was still a minor, he allowed Bai Ye to stay in the Navy base to protect his safety. As time went by, some Navy soldiers were naturally dissatisfied. In addition, Lieutenant Colonel Harry, who had always been at odds with Colonel Vaughn, fanned the flames among the soldiers, causing this dissatisfaction to spread throughout the Navy branch. Of course, what Harry did was not to target Bai Ye, but just to use Bai Ye to arouse the soldiers' resistance to Vaughn. Bai Ye had heard those sarcastic words countless times. From the initial anger to the calmness now, these words have trained Bai Ye's character to be extremely tough. In the past 3 years, Bai Ye has always known what he wants and what he should do. Today, it is finally time to reap the rewards. The last set of exercises, 1, 2, 99, 100. Bai Ye took a deep breath, his eyes flashing with an unusual look, and bent down to do 100 push-ups in the most standard posture. At the same time, an ethereal voice sounded in his mind. Ding, activate the One Punch Man template system. Host, Bai Ye, template, One Punch Man, Saitama, fusion degree. 1%, world source power. 0 exchange store is not open. Hearing the sudden sound of the system, Bai Ye's dark eyes flashed with a gleam. What was supposed to come finally came. What disappointed Bai Ye was that he thought that activating the system would allow him to obtain all of Saitama's power. That is enough to explode a star. But from the system panel, he can only fuse 1% of Saitama's strength now. Before Bai Ye thought too much, he felt a strong force suddenly emerge from his body and flow through his body. Bai Ye trembled all over and lost control of his body in an instant. He could only let this force transform his body. His bones were crushed and reshaped, and his tendons were torn and regrown. Blood kept coming out of his pores and soon soaked his clothes. In a moment, Bai Ye was wrapped in a blood cocoon. Except for his consciousness, Bai Ye's whole body was undergoing earth-shaking changes. Damn it. If I had known it would be so painful, I should have done it in the room. The severe pain continued to hit Bai Ye's nerves. Bai Ye clenched his teeth and did not make any sound. Bai Ye was still a little worried. If this scene was seen by others, it would be difficult to explain. Fortunately, although the transformation process was painful, it was very fast. The transformation was completed in just 1 minute and was not seen by outsiders. After the intense pain subsided, Bai Ye now felt an unprecedented sense of fulfillment, which even gave Bai Ye an illusion. I am invincible? After a moment, Bai Ye shook his dizzy head and moved his body slightly. Crack, crack. The blood cocoon wrapped around his body began to crack continuously, and his bones all over his body rang like firecrackers. It's so cool. This can be considered as sweet after bitterness. Then, Bai Ye carefully looked around, and seeing that there was no one around, he ran to his room at a very fast speed. After washing off all the blood stains on his body and changing into clean clothes, Bai Ye began to think about things related to the system. Bai Ye originally thought that after unlocking the system, he would be able to have 100% of Saitama's strength. In the end, he only got 1%. However, Bai Ye had expected this result. Although he didn't know how strong this 1% of Saitama's strength was in the pirate world. But based on Bai Ye's experience in the Navy in the past 3 years, he was at least much stronger than Colonel Vaughn. This was not bad. Moreover, this fusion degree should also be able to be improved, and the way to improve it may be in that world source power. Bai Ye hurriedly asked the system. At this time, the ethereal system prompt sounded again. World source power, the host's participation in the original plot of the world, the improvement of personal status, power, and prestige will increase the world source power. World source power can be used to improve integration, exchange items, and exchange subordinate characters. As expected by Bai Ye, the appearance of world source power is to help him improve the degree of integration. And according to the system's explanation of world source power, Bai Ye also has his own understanding. If the development of the anim belongs to the development route of the original plot, the development route is fixed. The appearance of Bai Ye is a variable. It means that the future direction will be different from the original plot. The greater the change, the more world source power Bai Ye can gain. Not only that, Bai Ye's status, power, and prestige are all calculated. In this way, the acquisition of world source power is closely related to every choice Bai Ye makes next. A crazy idea popped up in Bai Ye's mind. If I go to kill the celestial dragons, then my reputation on the sea will grow rapidly, and I can get a lot of world source power. Thinking of this, Bai Ye's eyes flashed with a terrifying murderous intent. If changing the original plot can also get a lot of world source power, then I killed Luffy. Such a harvest is definitely more terrifying. Chapter 2, Choosing to Fight. However, just as Bai Ye was thinking, a chaotic sound suddenly broke out in the base. Then a piercing alarm sounded suddenly. Beep, beep, beep. Bai Ye saw many Navy soldiers running out in panic through the window. Bai Ye's originally happy expression also became serious. On the island, once the alarm sounded, it could only mean one thing, that is, pirates are attacking. Bang bang bang. As the knock on the door sounded, the door was pushed open and a middle-aged man with a square face came in. The middle-aged man was nearly 2 meters tall and had a burly figure. Just looking at him gave people a sense of oppression. Bai Ye was the first to ask, Colonel Vaughn, are there pirates attacking? Colonel Vaughn nodded and said, the patrol team observed that there are pirates coming to our island. We don't know what kind of pirates they are. Bai Ye, stay in the naval base first, and don't go out to avoid accidents. Every time there are pirates attacking the island, Colonel Vaughn will let Bai Ye stay in the naval base. This time is no exception. For this, Bai Ye is very grateful to Colonel Vaughn. If it weren't for Colonel Vaughn's care for him over the past 3 years, he might have died in the hands of pirates. Not to mention activating the system. But this situation will completely change from today. I, Bai Ye, am very strong now. Colonel Vaughn, let me fight too. Vaughn said seriously, don't be silly. Seeing that Bai Ye was about to speak, Vaughn's expression softened and continued, "Your father died in the hands of pirates to save me. Before he died, he asked me to take good care of you. If something happens to you, how can I explain to your father after I die?" Looking at Bai Ye, Vaughn's expression was complicated. It was because of the battle 3 years ago that Bai Ye's father died in the hands of pirates to save him. His right arm was also cut off in that battle, and his strength was not as good as before. If Bai Ye could participate in the Navy training normally in the past 3 years, he would have some self-protection ability when facing pirates. He would not object so much. But in the past 3 years, Vaughn only saw Bai Ye's ineffective training. Once he encountered pirates, he would probably be sent to death. So he no longer expected Bai Ye to become a real Navy soldier. Vaughn touched Bai Ye's head with his rough big hand and sighed, "Obey the order, and stay in the room obediently." Just when Bai Ye was about to explain the situation to Colonel Vaughn, a sharp voice suddenly sounded at the door. "Sure enough, it's here, Colonel Vaughn. Isn't your behavior inappropriate?" The person who came was Lieutenant Colonel Harry, tall and gloomy, the second in command of the Navy branch, and he had never been convinced by Vaughn's position. Almost everything had to be done the opposite of Vaughn. The few people who had mocked Bai Ye before were now following Harry with disdain on their faces. Harry walked in the door, his eyes unscrupulously looking at Vaughn's empty right arm, without any restraint. Vaughn didn't care about Harry's almost provocative look, and said with a sullen face, "Lieutenant Colonel Harry, what do you mean by that?" Harry looked at Bai Ye with a playful look on his face. "Colonel Vaughn, I remember that in the past 3 years, you said that Bai Ye was not allowed to participate in the battle, because he was not yet an adult, right?" Vaughn's expression moved, as if he had thought of something, and said in a low voice, "That's the case." Harry clapped his hands, and smiled with narrowed eyes. "That's right. If I remember correctly, Bai Ye should have become an adult a few days ago, right?" Bai Ye did not refute, because what Harry said was indeed the truth. Vaughn couldn't help but sigh in his heart when he saw this. Seeing that the two did not speak, Harry continued, "So, it's time for Bai Ye to contribute to the Navy, right?" Harry looked at Vaughn with a gleam in his eyes. There was no hatred between him and Bai Ye, he just wanted to disgust Vaughn. Since Vaughn wanted to protect Bai Ye, he tried every means to put Bai Ye in danger. It was that simple. In his opinion, a cripple like Vaughn should have stepped down from the position of colonel long ago. If he is not strong enough, he should give up his position as soon as possible. Over the years, by constantly targeting Vaughn, some naval soldiers in the naval base gradually only obeyed Harry's orders. If it weren't for the fact that Colonel Vaughn was old enough and was the first to rush into battles with pirates, saving many soldiers' lives, some old naval soldiers would still be more convinced by Colonel Vaughn. Otherwise, this naval base would have been named after Harry long ago. Vaughn looked embarrassed and took a deep breath. "Harry, I know you want to replace me, but you don't have to target Bai Ye all the time." Harry interrupted bluntly, "Colonel Vaughn, I'm just doing my job." Vaughn hesitated for a moment and said, "How about this? As long as you don't force Bai Ye to fight the pirates, after this battle, I will submit my resignation report to my superiors and recommend you to become the colonel of the Ski Island Naval Branch." Harry was stunned for a moment, maybe because the surprise came too suddenly, and asked uncertainly, "Are you serious?" Vaughn nodded slowly, as if he had made up his mind. "As long as you can guarantee Bai Ye's safety, I can." Vaughn hadn't finished speaking yet. Bai Ye said firmly, "I will participate in this battle." "Kid, do you know what you are saying?" Harry narrowed his eyes slightly, revealing a dangerous aura, like a venomous snake ready to go, staring at Bai Ye. Vaughn was also startled by Bai Ye's words, and hurriedly advised, "Bai Ye, this is not the time to joke. You have to know that even I can't guarantee that I can survive when facing pirates." Bai Ye nodded and said, "Don't worry, Colonel Vaughn. This is my own choice. Besides, I'm an adult now, and I can't live under your protection all my life. And as a naval soldier, it is our mission to resist pirates. If even we choose to escape, what should the residents of the island do?" Vaughn heard this, and didn't persuade him anymore. He knew that the child in front of him had grown up completely. "Okay, since you are ready, then join me in resisting pirates." Then he turned to Harry and scolded, "Even a child who has just reached adulthood understands the meaning of the Navy better than you. You are still trying to be smart at this time. I think you have lived a dog's life for the past few decades." Harry's face turned blue with anger. He didn't expect that the duck in his mouth could fly away. Looking at the exasperated Harry, Bai Ye smiled innocently. "Lieutenant Colonel Harry, I'm going to gather at the dock and need to pack up. Can you leave my room first?" Harry didn't say anything, but looked at Bai Ye deeply, turned around and left. Although Vaughn was not forced to abdicate this time, Harry's action was not a failure. It's just that he didn't expect Bai Ye, a usually inconspicuous kid, to say those words. Harry said coldly, "Huh. Since you all want to die, then I'll grant your wish." Harry first sent away the men following him, then walked to the shadow of the corner, took out a den mushi from his arms, and dialed the number. Chapter 3 Harry's Plan. After a moment, an extremely arrogant voice came from the other end of the phone. "Hello, hello. You're calling me now. Are you going to change the plan?" "No, the plan remains the same, but I want Vaughn to die in this attack." The voice on the phone became playful. "Hahaha, Commander Harry, are you out of your mind? I'm not your subordinate. You have no right to ask me to work for you. Besides, what does the contest between you two Navy have to do with a pirate like me?" Although he was humiliated many times by the person on the other end of the phone, Harry did not become angry, but surprisingly calm. "If you kill Vaughn, I'll give you 60% of what we get this time." 60%? How about you send a beggar? Then how much do you want? The pirate on the other end of the phone said greedily, "I want it all." Harry, who was always calm, was also very angry at the pirate's greed. The veins on his forehead kept bulging, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Are you going too far?" The pirate said indifferently, "Too far? Since Lieutenant Colonel Harry thinks I'm going too far, then we can terminate our cooperation. I will take my men away from Ski Island now, and you can slowly fight with Vaughn." As soon as the pirate said this, Harry calmed down immediately. Although he hated the greed of pirates, he needed pirates to help him get rid of Vaughn. "Okay, then it's settled. Bloodwolf hopes you won't let me down when the time comes. Hahaha, just prepare the things. If you can't even get rid of that cripple Vaughn, then my Bloodwolf pirates will just disband." After hanging up the phone, Harry looked at Bai Ye's room with a gloomy look. "You force me to do this." In the room, since things have come to this point, Vaughn did not persuade Bai Ye anymore. However, this is Bai Ye's first battle with pirates, and he still has to give the necessary explanations. When we fight the pirates later, don't be the first one to rush in, and don't take the initiative to come to my side. Bai Ye nodded seriously. He knew that as a Navy colonel, Vaughn would have to deal with the strongest pirates. At that time, the closer you are, the faster you will die. But now Bai Ye is completely different from before. Although Bai Ye has never actually taken action, according to the past experience of seeing Colonel Vaughn take action, his strength should be above Colonel Vaughn. Moreover, Bai Ye thought carefully and thought that according to the plot of the anime, the strongest pirate in the East China Sea is probably Pirate Admiral Creek, so there shouldn't be any accidents. Even if it's Creek, I should be able to completely solve it with my current strength, right? If I fully explode, I will definitely scare Colonel Vaughn. Harry and his men will definitely not expect that my strength is actually stronger than Colonel Vaughn. It will be fun then. Oh, should I use all my strength at that time? Should I kill him with one punch? Or should I kill him with 2 punches? After I attack, will it arouse other people's suspicion? What a headache. Vaughn saw that Bai Ye's expression kept changing, and thought that Bai Ye must be very nervous, because he had to face the vicious pirates for the first time. So he comforted him. "Don't worry, I will arrange other soldiers to look after you. Be careful, you will definitely survive." But Bai Ye was completely immersed in thinking at this time, and did not hear what Vaughn said clearly, but just nodded subconsciously. Vaughn could only sigh lightly when he saw this, his eyes full of guilt. If it weren't for the fight between him and Harry, Bai Ye might not have been involved at all, and naturally he wouldn't have to worry about whether his life would be in danger. However, Vaughn had made up his mind at this time. If there was a life and death crisis, he would die before Bai Ye. Only in this way could he feel better. He walked to the door, turned his head, and looked at Bai Ye, who was still serious, and coughed lightly. "Meet at the dock in half an hour. We'll talk about the specific situation then. You don't have to worry too much now." "Oh, okay." Bai Ye was obviously absent-minded at this time, and responded casually. But Vaughn didn't care about these. As the head of the naval base, he still had a lot to do. Bai Ye didn't come out of his thoughts until Colonel Vaughn left. Although he felt that his strength was above Colonel Vaughn, Bai Ye was not completely sure in his heart. After all, feelings are just feelings after all. If it came to a life and death fight, Bai Ye would find that his feelings were wrong when he took action, and then he would have no place to cry. Thinking of this, Bai Ye returned to the previous training ground again. The originally lively training ground was now empty, and almost all the Navy soldiers gathered at the dock. This was just convenient for Bai Ye to test his strength. Bai Ye took a deep breath and swung his right fist towards the east wall, leaving a residue image in the air. A violent fist wind suddenly emerged and rushed away. The next moment, with a bang, the wall seemed to have collapsed instantly, as if it had been hit hard, forming a gap more than 3 meters wide, and the surrounding walls were covered with spider web-like cracks, which were shaky. "This TM is too cool." Bai Ye looked at his hands in disbelief, his face full of uncontrollable excitement. After being a waste for so many years, he finally turned over. When Bai Ye arrived at the dock, all the soldiers of the Navy branch had arrived. It was just that the atmosphere seemed extremely weird. The Navy soldiers present could be divided into 2 groups. Nearly 70% of them stood behind Harry, and the remaining 30% stood on Vaughn's side. From the number of people in the 2 groups, it can be seen that Harry has an absolute initiative. Although Vaughn is still the head of the Ski Island Naval Branch Base, it is actually in name only. Vaughn felt sad when he saw this. If he hadn't broken his right arm in the battle with the pirates 3 years ago, his strength would have declined a lot. Harry has also been steadily improving in the past few years, and his strength has surpassed Vaughn. And he tried his best to win over the Navy soldiers and divide the power in Vaughn's hands. Otherwise, Harry would never dare to be so arrogant in front of Vaughn. Seeing the pirate ship on the sea getting closer and closer, Vaughn didn't care about these miscellaneous things. He shouted loudly, "All Navy soldiers listen. Wait until the enemy ship enters the range, and then launch an attack." However, the development of things exceeded Vaughn's expectations. Except for the soldiers behind him, the people on Harry's side seemed to be cast under a spell of immobilization, standing still. Chapter 4 Blood Wolf Pirates. Vaughn's face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot, and he was furious. He could tolerate Harry's disgusting behavior, but he couldn't accept that Harry was still playing tricks at such a critical moment when facing the invasion of pirates. Vaughn's face was livid and he scolded, "Harry, what do you mean?" Harry said calmly, "It doesn't mean anything. I just want to say that if someone doesn't have the strength he should have, he shouldn't sit in a position he shouldn't sit in. You see, most Navy soldiers understand this principle." Harry's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and his words were full of threats. However, at this time, the pirate ship was getting closer and closer. It was even possible to clearly see the bloody wolf-headed skull flag hanging on the mast, fluttering in the wind. The bright red mark on the wolf's head seemed to be drawn with blood. "This is the flag of the Blood Wolf Pirates. The Blood Wolf is coming." A soldier who recognized the pirate flag shouted in panic. As soon as this was said, the rest of the Navy soldiers panicked, and the entire dock became a mess. The Navy soldiers were terrified and stunned, and some of them couldn't even hold their guns steady. If a real fight breaks out, they might accidentally shoot and hit their teammates based on their performance. Even Vaughn looked a little uneasy, and his only remaining left arm subconsciously clenched the sword at his waist. Bai Ye looked at the panicked expressions of the crowd and asked in confusion, "Is this Blood Wolf very powerful?" Vaughn nodded heavily. "It's not a question of whether he is powerful or not. Blood Wolf has been at sea for only 3 months, and the bounty is as high as 15 million baileys. It is said that he is an animal-type devil fruit user with ruthless and cruel methods. He kills all the people in the town he attacks, leaving no one alive. We are really in danger now." An uneasy atmosphere began to spread among the crowd. Bai Ye looked up at the Blood Wolf pirates on the sea. A thoughtful light flashed in his eyes, and he subconsciously clenched his right fist and muttered, "A character with 15 million balers should be able to block my punch, right?" The follower behind Harry asked in panic, "Boss, are we really not going to take action? This is Blood Wolf. This butcher never leaves anyone alive." Harry looked at the person asking the question indifferently, and a strong murderous intent burst out of his body. "What? Are my words useless? No. No." The follower was instantly frightened and broke out in a cold sweat, not daring to say another word. Harry's face was uncertain, although he didn't know if it was right to take this step. But he knew that if he didn't take this step, he would definitely have no way out. Only when Vaughn died, he would have the opportunity to become a colonel of the Navy branch. The sudden attack of the Blood Wolf and the persuasion of nearly 70% of the Navy soldiers not to take action were all to ensure that Vaughn would die in this battle. After Vaughn died, Blood Wolf would be injured. He would then take the opportunity to kill Blood Wolf, show his strength, and consolidate his prestige. In this way, even if he didn't make a move before, as long as he succeeded in killing Blood Wolf, no one would have anything to say. This plan kills two birds with one stone. As for what was said before, giving all the looted materials to Blood Wolf, it was just empty talk. When Blood Wolf died, would he still need to burn those things? However, just as Harry was making up his mind, a loud shout came from the direction of the Blood Wolf pirates. "Lieutenant Colonel Harry, didn't you say you would join forces to deal with Vaughn? I'm here now, why don't you show your attitude?" Blood Wolf's arrogant words spread across the coast. "What? Lieutenant Colonel Harry, is this true? No way." The Navy soldiers were in a commotion for a while. "Fuck, Blood Wolf is really an idiot." Harry's expression remained unchanged, but he cursed in his heart. If Blood Wolf didn't say anything, Harry could still fish in troubled waters in secret and reduce his own losses. Now, everything is exposed. Although Blood Wolf's words now have a sense of sowing discord, which makes everyone have to think about the truth of Blood Wolf's words. But Vaughn, who knows Harry best, combined Blood Wolf's words with what happened before, and is almost certain that what Blood Wolf said is 99% true. Vaughn can no longer bear it, and quickly stepped forward and grabbed Harry's collar. Staring at him angrily, he shouted, "Is this all true?" Harry grabbed Vaughn's arm with one hand, and with a sudden force, he directly threw Vaughn's right hand away. He straightened his wrinkled collar slowly and said calmly, "What is true? What is false? Now that pirates are attacking, you actually doubt me, a fellow Navy officer, because of what the pirates said. I said that what Blood Wolf said was all false. Are you willing to believe me?" Vaughn said in a deep voice, "I'm willing to, as long as you work together with me to resist the Blood Wolf pirates. I can pretend that nothing happened." Just as Harry was about to reply, Blood Wolf's arrogant words came again. "Lieutenant Colonel Harry, if you don't take action again, I will turn around and leave." Harry's face changed, and he said coldly, "I will not participate in this matter." "Harry." Vaughn was shocked, his eyes full of disbelief. "You actually colluded with pirates?" Harry interrupted bluntly, "Colonel Vaughn must provide evidence when speaking. Which eye of yours saw me colluding with pirates? When writing the report after the war, it will only be written that Colonel Vaughn died in the attack of the Blood Wolf pirates, and Lieutenant Colonel Harry led the Navy soldiers to successfully repel the Blood Wolf pirates. You." Vaughn's eyes were red with anger. If it weren't for the Blood Wolf pirates being so close, he would have wanted to kill Harry first. Blood Wolf looked at the chaotic scene among the Navy soldiers on the coast and showed a smug smile. Harry used him as a sword, and he also used Harry as a sword. If he was alone against Harry and Vaughn, there was almost no chance of winning. But now it's hard to say. You know, Ski Island is considered to be relatively wealthy among the surrounding islands, and Blood Wolf has been coveting it for a long time. When the time comes, Vaughn will be eliminated first. Even if Harry is going to play a trick of robbing the thief, it depends on who has the stronger wrist. Blood Wolf doesn't think he will lose. The situation is now clear. It is now obvious that Harry and Blood Wolf are joining forces to get rid of Vaughn. The gap in strength between the two sides is too great. Vaughn's current situation is a life or death situation, which is considered to be a compliment to Vaughn. Even at this point, Harry did not forget to further attack Vaughn. He threatened the soldiers behind Vaughn. "After all, we are all Marines. I can give you a chance to survive. Just stand in the team behind me, and I can save your lives." Chapter 5. One Punch. Everyone is shocked. Even if some soldiers were unwilling to associate with pirates, in such a situation, they could only choose to join Harry if they wanted to survive. Besides, Lieutenant Colonel Harry did not say that he had joined forces with the Blood Wolf, and Lieutenant Colonel Harry was the second in command of the naval base. Joining Lieutenant Colonel Harry was not considered betraying the Navy. With this self-deceiving idea, many people immediately made their choice. The people behind Harry did not move at all, and nearly 20% of the soldiers behind Vaughn ran behind Harry. Some of those who left stood at the end of Harry's team, not daring to look up at Vaughn, and some looked relieved, as if they were happy that they had escaped. In a moment, less than 10% of the soldiers were left behind Vaughn, almost all of whom were veterans who had followed Vaughn over the years. Vaughn looked at the soldiers who kept leaving, with a complicated expression and a depressed will, but he did not speak to dissuade them. He had no right to let others give up their lives to follow him. Harry looked at the frustrated Vaughn and laughed arrogantly. "Ha ha ha, you made the right choice, because only in this way can you save your life." For Harry, the current situation is becoming more and more favorable to him. Bai Ye sighed as he looked at the complicated situation. Everyone thought that they were on the second floor, while others were on the first floor. Harry and Bloodwolf were plotting against each other, but in fact, Bai Ye was standing on the 5th floor. As long as one is strong enough, no matter how many plots one makes, it will be in vain. At this time, Harry noticed that Bai Ye was still standing behind Vaughn, and couldn't help but sneer. "Hey, Kit, you are still standing next to Vaughn. It seems that you are really not afraid of death. I remember this is your first time to participate in a battle, right? Do you know the taste of death? Have you experienced the feeling of a bullet shooting into your body? You are still young. You have a lot of beautiful youth to squander. There is no need to follow Vaughn, who is about to die. As long as you are willing to follow me, I can guarantee that you can live well. At least, you will not be a short-lived ghost." After speaking, Harry looked at Vaughn with a playful look on his face. Harry knew that Vaughn was very good to Bai Ye. If at this time, even Bai Ye chose to betray Vaughn, then for Vaughn, it would definitely be a heavy blow. Vaughn sighed, looked at the somewhat immature Bai Ye behind him, and said reluctantly, "Harry is right. You are still young. You don't have to die with a cripple like me. Go to Harry. After I die, Harry will naturally not be interested in targeting you. You can choose to live as an ordinary person." Harry tempted. "That's right. Bai Ye, for your life, you should go to me. At least, you can survive by following me." Listening to the words of the two, Bai Ye seemed to have made his own decision, and walked slowly towards Harry. The veterans behind Vaughn cursed in a low voice. "White-eyed wolf. Colonel Vaughn is so good to you. You actually choose to betray at such a critical moment. Bai Ye, do you think you can survive by going to Harry?" Vaughn looked at Bai Ye's back, with a bit of heartache in his eyes, but he was relieved in his heart, and stopped the words of the old people behind him. Harry laughed even more proudly at this. "Ha ha ha, Vaughn, look, even Bai Ye, whom you have taken care of for many years, chose to betray you. How bad you are as a naval captain." Just as the two sides were arguing, Bai Ye, who was halfway through, suddenly stopped. Bai Ye said lightly, "Sir Harry, don't you feel like a clown? I was still thinking about what reason to kill you, but I didn't expect you to bring the reason to the door. Colluding with pirates to murder a naval captain, such a serious crime. Even if you are killed on the spot, it shouldn't be too much, right?" When Bai Ye said this, the whole audience was silent. Harry looked at Bai Ye's calm eyes, and felt a palpitation in his heart. Vaughn was also startled by Bai Ye's arrogant words. The lackey behind Harry stood up, pointed his gun at Bai Ye, and said disdainfully, "Haha, you are such a waste, and you dare to talk big. If it weren't for Lieutenant Colonel Harry wanting to spare your life, do you believe I would kill you now?" Before he finished speaking, Bai Ye's legs suddenly exerted force. Bang! Two pits appeared on the ground in an instant, and his figure disappeared from everyone's sight. Bai Ye's speed was so fast that only a residual image was left, and even Harry couldn't catch Bai Ye's position. The next second, Harry only felt a warm feeling on his right face and turned his head mechanically to see that the soldier who had spoken before had turned into a headless corpse. The warm feeling on his face was blood splashing on his face. The blood mist in the sky fell on the faces of 90% of the soldiers behind him under the sea breeze. The headless corpse fell down with a bang. The scene fell into a deathly silence. No one expected that Bai Ye, who was usually like a waste in the eyes of everyone, would be so powerful. Master Harry, didn't you teach him that children shouldn't interrupt when adults are talking? Bai Ye stood beside Harry with a harmless smile on his face. A few drops of scarlet blood splashed on his fair face, which looked extremely terrifying. How is this possible? Harry subconsciously took a few steps back and uttered these words tremblingly, as if he had exhausted all his strength. How can your strength be so strong? Not only Harry, but even Vaughn was dumbfounded now, and even wondered if he was dreaming. With the strength that Bai Ye just showed, even myself in my prime might not be his opponent. At this point, Harry seemed to understand something. He turned to look at Vaughn and said sternly, "Vaughn, you have known Bai Ye's strength for a long time, right? It turns out that all this was in your plan. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. You, who have always been brave but not wise, have learned to hide your skills." Vaughn was dizzy and confused by what Harry said. Really? Fuck, it turns out that I already knew Bai Ye's strength? Did I really arrange all this? Or am I dreaming now? Not only Harry thought so, but even the old people behind Vaughn had the same idea. Lord Vaughn, you are really a hidden talent. No wonder you didn't stop those people from leaving before. It turns out that you wanted to see who would choose to leave at the critical moment. What a brilliant plan. Frank, I remember you just called Bai Ye an ungrateful person. Frank glared at the person who spoke, wishing he could kick him a few times on the spot, and then quickly explained, "How could I know that this was all arranged by Lord Vaughn? Ignorance is innocent. Besides, doesn't my scolding seem more real?" Don't say it. After seeing Bai Ye's strength, Frank really felt guilty, fearing that Bai Ye was petty and hated him for scolding him. If he really caused trouble for himself, what should he do? The atmosphere gradually eased as a few people kept chatting, and they were no longer as fearless as before. The situation began to change subtly. Chapter 6, Die with Unclosed Eyes. Bai Ye showed unexpectedly strong strength, but the plan had come to this point, and Harry had to carry it out anyway. He had no way out. Harry shouted in a shrill voice, "Vaughn, I didn't want to do it, but you forced me to do it." "I forced you? What did I do? I didn't even say a word, and you blamed me for everything. Isn't that a bit unreasonable? Also, you all said I arranged it. I didn't arrange it. I didn't even know Bai Ye was so strong." Vaughn was confused and continued to be confused. Bai Ye also found Vaughn's appearance funny, but he didn't plan to explain anything. Let everyone think that he was Vaughn's backup plan, so that even if he showed all his strength, everyone would only doubt Vaughn, and no one would ask Bai Ye about this matter. In other words, Vaughn was bound to take the blame. At this time, Harry had already realized that if he didn't take action, he would only be waiting for death, so he ordered his men, "Everyone, get started, get rid of Bai Ye first." Then he shouted towards the coast, "Bloody Wolf, I have already taken action as agreed, you should act quickly too." Blood Wolf listened to Harry's somewhat anxious voice, then looked at the chaotic shore. A bloodthirsty smile appeared on his face. "Little guys, get ready to reap the fruits of victory." Almost every pirate on the Blood Wolf ship had the blood of several people on their hands. When they heard that they could start killing, they became excited, their eyes red. "Don't worry, boss. I haven't killed anyone for several days, and I'm tired of it. We are the best at killing people." The deputy captain next to the Blood Wolf asked in a low voice, "Boss, are we going to kill all the navy?" Blood Wolf said indifferently, "First, get rid of the navy on Vaughn's side, and then get rid of the navy on Harry's side." "But, boss, didn't you make an agreement with Harry?" Blood Wolf glanced at the deputy captain and said disdainfully, "We are pirates. Do we still have to stick to the agreement with the navy? If we want to do it, we have to do it big. When we get rid of both sides, the whole Sky Island will be ours." The deputy captain nodded and stopped talking, and then began to arrange his men to prepare for the attack. On the shore, under Harry's order, Hundreds of Navy soldiers pointed their guns at the white knight in the center. Hundreds of black muzzles. Just looking at them makes people feel palpitations. However, Bai Ye stood still, and there was no panic on his young face. It was funny to say that the attacking pirates were not far away in the sea, and the Navy on the coast pointed their guns at Bai Ye, who was also a Navy. Such a scene made Vaughn feel sad, but he was also a little worried about Bai Ye's safety. Vaughn stopped him and said, "Harry, don't make the same mistake again and again. If you are willing to fight the pirates with me, then I can pretend that this incident never happened." When Harry heard that Vaughn was willing to let him go, he was stunned at first, and then laughed. "Vaughn, do you really think you can win? I didn't expect Bai Ye's strength to be so strong. You are really hiding very well." Hearing this, Vaughn rolled his eyes at Harry in anger, thinking to himself, "How well I hide? I hide your grown mother's legs. But I have nearly 300 soldiers here with me. It's no problem to get rid of Bai Ye. With the Blood Wolf pirates, I won't lose anyway. You actually persuaded me to surrender. It seems that you are still an idiot like before." Vaughn saw that Harry was determined, and then looked at Bai Ye, who was surrounded by heavy enemies, and knew that he couldn't wait any longer. Bai Ye must be rescued before the Blood Wolf pirates landed. Otherwise, he would be unable to resist the attack from both sides. "Get ready to fight. We must find a way to rescue Bai Ye before the Blood Wolf pirates attack." Frank and the others stopped joking and became serious. Harry quickly retreated, distanced himself from Bai Ye, and sneered, "Kit, you are very strong, even stronger than me, but no matter how strong you are, you can't be stronger than more than 300 of us." Harry shouted, "Go." More than 300 soldiers fired at Bai Ye at the same time, and dazzling flames came out of the black muzzles. One by one, orange-yellow bullets rushed towards Bai Ye like a torrent. But a scene that shocked everyone appeared. Bai Ye was as flexible as a loach, dodging countless bullets. Monster. He is not a human at all. He is not Bai Ye. The rebellious soldiers had never seen such a scene before, and they were frightened out of their wits by Bai Ye. Bai Ye appeared in front of Harry in almost the blink of an eye, sneering, "Numbers are nothing in the face of absolute strength." Harry looked at Bai Ye, who was like a ghost in front of him, and was shocked, but his years of combat experience still made him react. Harry drew the sword from his waist and chopped it down heavily, gritting his teeth and said, "Little devil, do you really want to die?" Bai Ye raised his left hand and grabbed the sword directly, sneering, "Why do I feel that you are the one who wants to die?" Harry's arms were throbbing with veins, and he wanted to pull the sword out of Bai Ye's hand. But the sword seemed to have taken root in Bai Ye's hand. No matter how hard Harry tried, it still didn't move, and Harry's face turned red with anxiety. "You want it?" Bai Ye smiled, and with his left hand he crushed the sword, with sharp fragments flying in the air. The sword suddenly broke, and Harry had no time to stop, and fell backwards. "Then I'll give it back to you." Bai Ye picked out a larger piece from the fragments in the air, held it in his right hand, and threw it directly at Harry with his muscles tensed. The fragment was as fast as a stream of light, and instantly passed through Harry's body, and fell on the ground, and exploded into a nearly meter-deep pit. The ground trembled slightly, and smoke filled the sky. When the smoke dissipated, Harry was lying on the ground, and had lost his breath. There was a bowl-sized wound on his heart, his eyes were wide open, and his face was horrified and puzzled. Perhaps until the moment of death, he still couldn't understand why Bai Ye, who was so strong, had endured the humiliation of others for 3 years. It was not until today that he chose to burst out his strength. Unfortunately, no one would answer this question for him. But this might be a good thing for Harry. If he knew that Bai Ye had been a waste for the past 3 years, without any strength at all. He just happened to successfully activate the system today, and had great strength. But he chose to join forces with the Blood Wolf pirates, to attack Vaughn at this time, and ran directly into Bai Ye's gun. This is really a coincidence. If he knew the truth, Harry would probably perform a resurrection on the spot, and come back to life directly. Chapter 7: An Unexpected Discovery. It took less than 5 minutes from Bai Ye stepping forward, to Harry to successfully killing Harry. But within these 5 minutes, the situation changed drastically. Everyone's mood was like riding a roller coaster, bumpy and up and down. However, Before, Vaughn was lying on this side and Harry was rising on this side, but now it became Vaughn rising on this side and Harry was lying on this side. After seeing Bai Ye kill Harry in a few seconds, even the Blood Wolf, who was famous for his bloodthirstiness and brutality, couldn't help but take a breath. He cursed in his heart, "Can't Harry, this idiot, investigate it first. And he implicated me. He deserves to be killed." Blood Wolf knew in his heart that once Harry died, he would probably not be the opponent of that guy with his own strength. In addition, the old man Vaughn was still there, and going forward would be a suicide. Seeing that the momentum was not right, Blood Wolf did not hesitate at all and immediately shouted, "Quick, turn around, leave this place quickly. Yes, yes, turn around quickly." Even Blood Wolf was so scared, and the pirates under his command had long been scared. Seeing that the boat was about to approach the shore, the next moment it turned 180 degrees and sped away in the opposite direction. Previously, I hoped that the boat could go faster, land as soon as possible, slaughter the navy, and plunder money. Now I wish I could give the boat wings and get as far away as possible and leave that dangerous man as soon as possible. This is no longer something that can be described as I took off my pants, but my girlfriend said, "I have my period." Instead, you took off your pants, took a shower, and brought your equipment, only to find that the person lying on the bed was not your delicate girlfriend who was ready to pick, but a ferocious female ghost. You are mentally strong if you didn't die of this fright on the spot. On the coast, the soldiers who had chosen to stand behind Harry were all frightened and silent, and dared not breathe. At this time, an ethereal voice suddenly sounded in Bai Ye's mind. "Gain 1 world source power. Is this okay?" Bai Ye was stunned. He didn't expect that killing a piece of trash like Harry would also earn world source power. It was a pleasant surprise. Bai Ye immediately set his sights on the soldiers who betrayed him. A lieutenant colonel like Harry only had 1 point of world power, and these soldiers combined probably didn't have much world power. But a mosquito is still meat, no matter how small it is. Bai Ye had no psychological burden in killing such a traitor. These were all precious world power. The more than 300 Navy officers who were surrounded by Bai Ye seemed to feel the murderous intent emanating from Bai Ye, and when they thought of Bai Ye's terrifying strength, they were so scared that they couldn't even stand steadily. Just as Bai Ye was about to take action, he heard Vaughn shout, "No, Blood Wolf wants to run away." Bai Ye turned around and saw that the pirate ship was getting farther and farther away. Originally, for Bai Ye, the Blood Wolf pirates ran away, and he was too lazy to chase them. But killing people can also gain world power, so Blood Wolf can't be let go. "Colonel Vaughn, keep an eye on these people who are in league with the pirates. Don't let them get away. Leave Blood Wolf to me." Vaughn nodded and said, "That's no problem, but Blood Wolf is several miles away from us. I'm afraid we can't catch up with it if we sail now." After seeing Bai Ye's strength, Vaughn felt much more relieved about Bai Ye. He was no longer the child he needed to worry about. Bai Ye smiled and said, "That's easy." He leaned forward, exerted force with his legs, and then, like a cannonball, he flew into the air. The moment Bai Ye stood up, the ground trembled slightly, and the nearby sea surface was covered with waves. "That's not bad. The little guy's too strong." Vaughn was stunned as he watched Bai Ye disappear. Then he changed his mind and said, "Why is this little guy so strong? Is it the effect of Bai Ye's training method? I'll try it when I go back and promote this method to see if I can train a few strong people." Blood Wolf turned his head and looked at the increasingly distant ski island, and the uneasiness in his heart gradually subsided. "Damn, I didn't expect that there are such strong people in the Navy. Fortunately, I ran fast." Blood Wolf said with a face full of relief. The deputy captain said with lingering fear, "Yes. Who would have thought that there would be such a fierce man on Ski Island? I ran a trip in vain, didn't get any benefits, and almost lost my life. When have I suffered such a loss in all these years of going to sea?" A subordinate stepped forward and asked, "Boss, where are we going now?" "Just find an island nearby. I'm so angry now and need to vent it." Blood Wolf waved his hands impatiently, his face full of uncontrollable madness. He actually caught up with us." At this moment, a terrible cry suddenly came out of the mouth of his subordinate. Dozens of pirates screamed like frightened girls, their faces pale. Those who didn't know would think they were innocent victims. Bloodwolf looked back at the sky, his pupils shrank slightly, and there was a tiny black shadow in the sky blocking the direct sunlight. Looking closely, the black shadow was Bai Ye, who killed Harry in 3 seconds before. Even Bloodwolf, who had killed countless people, was terrified after seeing such a quick death. Bloodwolf immediately shouted, "Damn it. That kid actually dared to catch up. Notify the helmsman to turn the direction quickly and increase the speed to the fastest. Quick. Quick. Turn the direction." The whole ship turned around in an instant and began to move to the right at full speed. Bai Ye sneered at this. "Run. No one can run away." As his figure fell, he stepped heavily on the water, and a water column several meters high rose from the sea surface, and the whole person flew into the air again. A few seconds later, Bai Ye landed on the bow. Bang! The whole ship was almost overturned by Bai Ye. The members of the Bloodwolf pirates watched Bai Ye appear, and the terrifying despair eroded their reason. Every time Bai Ye took a step, the pirates took a step back with panic on their faces. Each step was like stepping on their hearts, frightening them. "You don't come over. If you come over again, we will fight." Bloodwolf pretended to be calm and said, "What do you want to do? I didn't attack you. Why are you chasing me?" Bai Ye smiled, "Because you are all precious treasures." "Treasure?" Bloodwolf's eyes lit up, and he said painfully, "I'm willing to give you all the treasures on the ship. Just hope you can spare our lives." In Bloodwolf's view, leaving a life is more important than anything else. As long as there is life, those lost Baileys can be snatched back. It is not impossible to even avenge today's revenge. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8: Post-War Processing. If possible, Bloodwolf even wanted to take out all the treasures and quickly let Bai Ye leave his ship. In the expectant eyes of the pirates, Bai Ye slowly shook his head and said, "No, to me, your greatest wealth is not Bai Ye, but your life." As he spoke, a shadow flashed by, and the pirates in front of him instantly exploded into a blood mist. Bloodwolf immediately shouted, "Brothers, come on." After knowing that Bai Ye would not let them go, all the pirates also burst out the previously suppressed ferocity and rushed towards Bai Ye. Bloodwolf also activated the fruit ability without hesitation and transformed into a werewolf form, which was his strongest state. His body swelled up like a balloon, bursting all the clothes on his body, and the grey-white hair grew wildly, covering his face, leaving only a pair of clear yellow vertical pupils, which looked extremely weird. The nails of his 10 fingers were more than 30 centimeters long, like 10 daggers, flashing dazzling cold light in the sun. But he did not choose to attack with his men, but let his men consume Bai Ye's strength first, and wait for an opportunity to move. Every time Bai Ye threw a punch, a pirate died on the spot, and no one could stop him for a moment. When Bai Ye appeared in front of Bloodwolf, the deck was littered with corpses. The floor was soaked with blood, like hell on earth. Bloodwolf looked at Bai Ye walking towards him, but did not attack immediately. Instead, he begged, "What can you do to let me go? As long as you let me go, I can cooperate with you and hand over all the treasures I plundered to you." I said, "To me, your life is the most valuable." Bai Ye walked closer and closer, with a smile on his face like a boy next door, looking harmless. Bloodwolf knew he was no match for him, but in this situation he had no choice but to fight to the death. "Since you don't want to let me go, then die." Bloodwolf took the lead, pushing his claws hard on the ground, and directly scratched the deck. His body suddenly appeared on Bai Ye's left, and the sharp claws of his right hand drew 5 silver white arcs at Bai Ye at an extremely strange angle. "Go to hell." Bloodwolf grinned. Bai Ye narrowed his eyes slightly, and for a moment he could actually feel the coolness coming from his skin, with a slight tingling sensation like a needle. It seems that this 1% of strength can only have a certain self-protection ability in the weakest East China Sea. I must quickly improve my fusion degree. The wolf claws passed through Bai Ye in front of him without any obstacles, and passed through his body directly, but the scene of blood splattering that Bloodwolf expected did not happen. Is this the after image of that guy? Where is this guy hiding now? A terrifying idea suddenly popped up in Bloodwolf's mind, and then he tried desperately to leave the previous position, as if he had seen a ghost. He only heard Bai Ye's indifferent voice behind him. Bai Ye's eyes were without any emotion, and he said lightly, "I hope your value can be greater." At this moment, Bloodwolf deeply experienced how great the gap in strength between the two sides was. Bloodwolf didn't even have time to react, and his chest had turned into a huge hole, with blood and flesh flying everywhere. Only after killing the Bloodwolf did Bai Ye have the energy to look at the system prompt sound that kept ringing in his mind. Obtained 0.01 world power point. Obtained 0.02 world power point. Obtained 0.01 world power point. Obtained 2 world power points. 0.01. 2. Isn't that too little? Even if the Bloodwolf is a devil fruit user, the bounty is as much as 15 million Baileys. Bai Ye frowned and opened a system panel. Host, Bai Ye. Template, One Punch Man. Saitama Fusion. 1%. World PowerPoint. For exchange store not opened. At this moment, Bai Ye even suspected that the system had taken a kickback. Good man. Killing 50 or 60 people in exchange for 4 world PowerPoints. Human life is so worthless. System, how much world power do I need to increase the fusion degree and open the exchange shop? Fusion degree 1% minus 2%. It takes 10 world power. Open the exchange shop. It takes 100 world power. Seeing this huge value, Bai Ye felt his trigeminal nerve hurt. This is really a long journey. Fortunately, Bai Ye's current strength is enough. There is no need to rush for a while. Later, Bai Ye found more than 20 million Baileys and treasures worth 7 or 8 million Baileys in the bedroom of the Bloodwolf. TSK. Such a rubbish can rob so much wealth. No wonder most people want to be pirates. With a wave of his hand, all the Baileys and treasures were loaded into the system space. Then he sank the ship with a few punches and returned to the island of Ski. Seeing that Bai Ye came back so quickly, Vaughn took the initiative to greet him with some surprise. All solved? Yes, all killed. Bai Ye nodded. Hearing this, Vaughn was secretly shocked. He thought that Bai Ye could catch up and kill a few of the small fish, which would be good enough. After all, it was a complete pirate group. But who would have thought that Bai Ye would catch up and kill them all without anyone escaping? Bai Ye didn't care about Vaughn's expression, but pointed at the more than 300 Navy soldiers under custody and asked, "How are you going to deal with these guys?" Hearing that they were going to be dealt with, many soldiers also begged, "Colonel Vaughn, I have followed you since I joined the Navy and killed more than a dozen pirates. Please forgive me this time. Colonel, I was just deceived by Harry and was confused for a while, so I chose to follow him. Give me another chance. Yes, my family is still on the island. My child is only 3 years old, and I also want to protect the residents on the island." Hearing the soldiers pleading, Vaughn looked embarrassed and paused. I haven't thought about it yet. After all, we are all soldiers who have trained together for many years. Before, everyone also fought against pirates together, which is a meritorious service to Ski Island." The more than 300 soldiers heard Vaughn's words, and they couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and expressions of relief appeared on their faces. Especially those who have followed Harry for many years and humiliated Bai Ye and others from time to time in the past few years, shouted in their hearts that they were lucky. Several of them looked up at Bai Ye with their eyes flashing, fear mixed with some resentment. In their opinion, if Bai Ye had not suddenly shown his amazing strength and killed Harry, how could they have fallen into the current situation? But when Bai Ye looked at those people, they hurriedly lowered their heads, fearing that Bai Ye would see their dissatisfaction. Bai Ye retracted his gaze and smiled. "Colonel Vaughn, since you don't know how to deal with it, let me handle it. How about it?" Vaughn thought for a while and said, "I'm indeed a little tired now, so this matter is left to you to decide." "Don't worry, I will take care of it." Chapter 9, Jumping 7 Levels. Bai Ye walked slowly towards the soldiers under guard, with a bloodthirsty smile on his face. He said coldly, "Shoot, kill all these people." "What?" Everyone present looked at Bai Ye with incredible eyes. Even Vaughn, who had already left, stopped. Bai Ye, are you really going to kill them all?" The soldiers in charge of the execution were stunned. These soldiers in front of them might have been brothers and sisters with them yesterday, laughing and playing. Today, he was going to kill them all. This sense of disparity is not something that everyone can accept. Bai Ye sarcastically said, if it weren't for me standing up to kill Harry, you would be the ones whose life and death are decided by others now. Do you think they would spare your lives at that time? I didn't expect you to still hesitate now. I really don't know what to say. Bai Ye's words were clearly heard by everyone. Vaughn knew that Bai Ye was right. If Harry won this time, Harry would never let them go, just because they knew that Harry and others were colluding with pirates. Although he knew this, Vaughn still had no choice but to kill all of the more than 300 soldiers. After all, some of the soldiers' relatives were still on the island of Ski. If they were really executed, how would Vaughn face their relatives? Ahem. Bai Ye, come here. Bai Ye looked at Vaughn's tangled face and knew that Vaughn couldn't bear it. Bai Ye, are you really going to execute them all? Of course, they are all people who have betrayed. If they can betray once, they can betray a second time. There are many troubles if they are kept alive. It is better to take advantage of this time to get rid of them directly. But if we kill them all, the strength of our navy will be weakened by more than half. If there are pirates invading again, then Vaughn felt something was wrong as he spoke. As long as Bai Ye was there, it didn't matter whether there were navy on the island or not. Vaughn looked up and saw Bai Ye's expression that wanted to laugh but didn't dare to laugh. He immediately slapped Bai Ye on the back of his head in annoyance. It turns out that this kid knows everything. He knows that he is reluctant to kill everyone, so he is just waiting to see me laugh. Bai Ye, tell me honestly, are you really going to get rid of them all? Bai Ye nodded, but looking at Vaughn's tangled look, he couldn't help but say, Colonel Vaughn, if you really can't bear it, we can only kill some people and let the others go. For example, the people who followed Harry the earliest must be dealt with. As for the people who chose to follow Harry before, they can choose to make meritorious contributions. Do you think this is okay? Vaughn thought about it for a while and felt that this was relatively reasonable. After all, people always have to pay the corresponding price for their choices. After Bai Ye left, Vaughn quickly put his slightly red and swollen right hand to his mouth and blew it with a painful expression. This kid's back of the head is really hard. It hurts me to death. In front of the imprisoned soldiers, Bai Ye specifically asked Colonel Vaughn for mercy, so he was willing to let those who followed Harry go. This made the soldiers feel grateful to Vaughn and said that they would obey Vaughn's orders in the future. Vaughn was happy and relieved. After all, this was Bai Ye's good intention. Now, the remaining prisoners were all panicked. Someone immediately stood up to resist. Brothers, since we are going to die anyway, why not fight? Bang! A bullet passed through the mouth of the speaker and killed him on the spot. Bai Ye threw the gun with smoke still coming out of the muzzle to the soldier next to him. Kill them all. After Bai Ye said this, the soldiers raised their guns, even though they had some reluctance in their eyes. They aimed at these people who were their companions an hour ago. The dense sound of gunfire was endless, and blood flowers bloomed. The system prompt sound is the same. Obtained 0.01 points of world power. Obtained 0.02 points of world power. Obtained 0.03 points of world power. This is because I ordered them to be killed, so they are also considered world power. Even if I didn't do it myself. In this case, the operability is too great. Host, Bai Ye. Template, One Punch Man, Saitama Fusion. 1%, world power. 6 exchange store is not open. In less than a day, I have obtained 6 points of world power, which is a great harvest. Bai Ye closed the system panel and said silently, now I need to plan the future. When I first obtained the system, I learned how to obtain world power. Bai Ye had a plan in his mind. After experiencing this day, Bai Ye made it clear about the future path. That is to become stronger and take power. Become the most powerful person in the entire pirate world. If there are those who disobey, I will suppress them with one punch. With one word, countless lives can be decided. Only in this way can Bai Ye obtain more world power. Now that him has not appeared, the ones with the most power on the surface are the 5 elders and those celestial dragons who call themselves gods. But in fact, Bai Ye doesn't think so. As the saying goes, whoever has the bigger fist is right. which celestial dragon dares to hang around in front of the 4 emperors. The reason why the 4 emperors can roam freely in the new world is because they are strong enough. But the most powerful is not the 4 emperors pirate group, but the navy controlled by the world government. One navy is at least equivalent to 2 4 emperors pirate groups. Such a huge force can only obey the orders of the world government. It's really a waste. Thinking of this, Bai Ye's eyes flashed with a terrifying light. If you want to do it big. Find a way to control the entire navy in your hands. The next day, early in the morning, Vaughn gathered all the navy soldiers on the playground. In front of everyone, he announced that Bai Ye was promoted to a lieutenant in the navy. At the same time, the system voice also sounded in Bai Ye's mind. Congratulations to the host for becoming a private and gaining 0.5 points of world power. Congratulations to the host for becoming a private and gaining 1 point of world power. Congratulations to the host for becoming a private and gaining 1.5 points of world power. Congratulations to the host for becoming a corporal and gaining 2 points of world power. Congratulations to the host for becoming a sergeant and gaining 3 points of world power. Congratulations to the host for becoming a staff sergeant and gaining 5 points of world power. Congratulations to the host for becoming a second lieutenant and gaining 10 points of world power. He jumped 7 levels in a row and gained a total of 23 points of world power. Just because of Bai Ye's promotion in the navy, the speed of gaining world power is more direct than killing people. However, Bai Ye's status can be improved because he killed the Blood Wolf with a bounty of 15 million baileys. This can be regarded as a double harvest. This sudden wave of wealth made Bai Ye more resolute in his thoughts yesterday. Chapter 10. Set off to Rogue Town. After the meeting, Vaughn pulled Bai Ye aside. Last night, I reported everything that happened here. It is said that Vice Admiral of the Spider headquarters is very interested in you and is willing to recommend you to the elite training camp of the Navy headquarters. So let me ask your opinion. Vice Admiral of the Spider headquarters is one of the top figures among the Vice Admirals. He is considered a hawkish figure of Akanu's faction and has ruthless means. Bai Ye directly eliminated hundreds of rebellious soldiers, which is very much in line with the appetite of the hawkish generals. So Bai Ye was not surprised by this. Elite training camp? Seeing Bai Ye's hesitation, Vaughn quickly explained, don't underestimate this elite training camp. Many high-ranking Navy generals came from there. The current 3 admirals of the Navy are the most obvious example. And the instructor there is the former Admiral Blackarm Zephyr. With your talent and Zephyr's teaching, maybe you will be the next Admiral of the Navy. Although Vaughn praised the elite training camp to the sky. But for Bai Ye, it is not very attractive. Take Bai Ye's strength for example. He mainly relies on the fusion of the system to improve his strength. As long as he obtains a large amount of world source power, his strength can be rapidly improved. Instead of playing children's house games in the Navy elite training camp, it is better to kill pirates and find ways to improve the rank. Colonel Vaughn, to be honest, I'm not very interested in the Navy elite training camp. Vaughn continued to persuade, all the talents who come out of the elite training camp are trained by the Navy. As long as they graduate, the lowest position is the first level of lieutenant. If you perform well, it is not impossible to become a colonel or a major general directly. Such a good opportunity. If you miss it, it would be a pity. After hearing this, Bai Ye was stunned. Without waiting for Vaughn to continue, he immediately said, you are right, then I will pack my things now. After that, he turned back to the room to pack his luggage. Vaughn was left with a confused look on his face. What did I say right? The key to Bai Ye's change of mind is the change of identity. Although as long as the strength is strong enough, there is no fear of not being reused. But if Bai Ye wanted to become a naval marshal step by step from a lieutenant according to the normal procedure, it would take a long time. But if Bai Ye came out of the elite training camp of the Navy headquarters, it would be different. This is equivalent to being gilded. He has become a person of good family background. Moreover, in the elite training camp, he can subdue many future elite generals of the Navy in advance. This is also very important for achieving the ultimate goal. It can be said that Ghost Spider's invitation is really a pillow scent when he is sleepy. Entering the new world earlier, you can also see the strong men standing at the top of the sea earlier. At that time, each of them will rely on their own means. On the endless sea, a small boat was drifting alone. Bai Ye sat at the bow and sighed with some annoyance. Why didn't I bring someone who knows navigation technology when I left? Because the candidates for the elite training camp need to be concentrated in Rogue Town first. So Bai Ye set sail for this. It has been 2 days since he came out of Ski Island, and Bai Ye feels that he is just standing still. The nautical chart in his hand is like waste paper. Fortunately, this is only the 4 seas. If it were the Grand Line, Bai Ye could not guarantee that with his current strength, he could survive the horrific natural disaster. Host, Bai Ye. Template, One Punch Man, Saitama Fusion. 2%, World Power. 18 Fusion 2%, 3%, requires 20 World Power. Open the exchange shop, requires 100 World Power. Looking at the current attribute board, Bai Ye felt that there was still a long way to go in the future. I'm still 2 points short of World Power. It would be great if there were some pirates. Bai Ye thought silently. Maybe the heavens heard Bai Ye's wish. Not far away, a medium-sized ship with a skull flag was heading towards Bai Ye. A pirate observed Bai Ye's boat, so he hurriedly reported loudly, "Beautiful Captain Alrita, a small boat was found ahead. Should we get rid of it?" "Really?" A fat body appeared at the bow and said viciously, "We are just short of chores on the ship. Rush up and tie that guy up." Because of excessive excitement, the fat on Alrita's ugly face was shaking constantly. The boat in front of the target, go full speed. At this time, Bai Ye had already let everything go with fate. Either wait for the destined person, or drift slowly with the waves. Anyway, there is still more than half a month before the gathering time. Lying on the boat, crossing his legs, looking up at the sky, a leisurely look. But at this moment, the sound of the ship breaking through the waves came into Bai Ye's ears. Bai Ye's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly looked in the direction of the sound. Pirate flag, with a red heart on the skull, and a swan-shaped bow. Why does it look so familiar? Then Bai Ye's mind flashed. This is a character that appeared in the anime. Alrita Pirates. Alrita Pirates, that is, the first pirate group Luffy encountered when he went out to sea. Captain Alrita is an ugly fat woman. She is a bit like a smaller version of Big Mom. Luffy and Kobe also met because of the Alrita Pirates. At this point in time, Luffy should not go out to sea for more than a year. So Bai Ye was able to meet the Alrita Pirates. This is the first time Bai Ye has met characters in anime. He can finally experience how much benefit changing the plot point will bring. Bai Ye moved and disappeared directly from the ship. When Bai Ye appeared again, he was already on Alrita's ship, looking at the little ghost in front of him, with a cherry blossom pink mushroom head, holding a broom in both hands. He looked like a punching bag. If I'm not mistaken, this should be Kobe. Kobe suddenly heard someone talking behind him, turned around abruptly, but found that it was a completely unfamiliar person. He was so scared that he stepped back and fell to the ground, holding his head in his hands, crying, "Who are you? Can you please not hurt me? I'm just a poor errand boy." Bai Ye chuckled. It's really the same as in the anime. A coward. Who is a coward? Kobe buried his head in his arms and argued unconvinced. But his body trembling completely betrayed him. "Don't be afraid. My name is Bai Ye, and I'm a Navy." Navy? As soon as he heard the Navy, Kobe stood up excitedly. "Are you really a Navy? What else?" Kobe pulled Bai Ye and said excitedly, "Sir, I report." Kobe told everything he saw and heard on the ship. "Don't worry, I will deal with these pirates. Now tell me about your problem. After I solve these pirates, are you going to go home, or?" Kobe answered without hesitation, "I'm going to follow you as a Navy." "Are you sure?" "Of course, becoming a Navy is my lifelong dream." Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully changing the plot to Kobe meets Luffy, Garp accepts Kobe as his apprentice, etc., and obtaining world power. 50 points. Chapter 11 Great Harvest. Under Alrita's order, they kept approaching the boat where Bai Ye was before. But when they got closer, they saw that there was no one on the boat. "Beautiful Captain Alrita, there is no one on this ship," the pirate hurriedly reported. Alrita was stunned and puzzled. How could this happen? Did they abandon the ship directly after seeing us? Just as everyone was confused, a somewhat teasing voice suddenly came from the cabin. "Are you looking for me?" Bai Ye pushed open the door and walked out, followed by the timid Kobe. When Bai Ye saw Alrita, his expression suddenly changed, his eyes kept twitching, and he tried hard to resist the urge to vomit. I didn't expect that the real person was more exaggerated than the anime. There was no way. Alrita, who hadn't eaten the slippery fruit, was really hard to bear. Alrita looked at Bai Ye, who suddenly appeared, and couldn't help but be alert. "Who are you? Weren't you looking for me just now?" Bai Ye reached his hand into his arms, as if looking for something. This action immediately scared the pirates like Alrita. They thought Bai Ye was looking for a weapon, so they immediately pointed all their knives at Bai Ye. Even Alrita's fat palms clenched the mace as thick as her thighs. She felt a very strong sense of danger from Bai Ye. It was as if an invisible big hand grabbed her neck, suffocating her. After seeing the reactions of the crowd, Bai Ye looked up and smiled. His handsome face was as warm as a big boy next door. "I'm just taking a strip of cloth. Don't be nervous." Bai Ye took out a light blue strip of cloth from his arms and covered his eyes. Almost everyone was puzzled by Bai Ye's actions. They had never seen such an operation as covering their eyes before fighting. "Brother Bai Ye, what do you mean by this?" Kobe was also confused at this time. "It's okay, I'm just afraid that I will vomit when I look at that ugly fat face when I start fighting," Bai Ye said lightly, and then found a pair of white gloves from the system space and put them on. The length of the gloves covers 2/3 of the forearm, similar to Saitama's gloves. Although it is very satisfying to blow up the enemy with one punch, the feeling of blood sticking to the hands is a bit unacceptable. So Bai Ye learned his lesson this time. Before leaving, he spent 2 million baileys to order 10 pairs of white gloves. Made of seeking skin, it has sufficient toughness and ductility. It can also prevent blood from seeping into and contacting the skin. It perfectly meets Bai Ye's current needs. "Boy, who do you say is ugly?" Alrita's ugly face became even more hideous, making it even more unacceptable. "Little guys, come on, I must twist this guy's head off." Alrita gave an order, and nearly 100 men rushed forward with their heads held high. Seeing this, Kobe subconsciously closed his eyes, fearing that he would see the scene of blood and flesh flying everywhere. But then the voice of Bai Ye, that could not be denied, was heard. "Open your eyes. If you want to be a qualified Navy soldier, if you can't even accept such a scene, you might as well go back to being an ordinary person." Kobe opened his eyes tremblingly, but saw a scene that he would never forget in his life. Facing the attack of many pirates, Bai Ye did not retreat but advanced. A long sword flashing with cold light came towards him. Bai Ye dodged sideways and punched through the chest with a backhand. Blood splattered everywhere, and even a few drops fell on Kobe's face. With a punch, the sharp fist wine burst out in a straight line, directly piercing more than a dozen pirates. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and corpses were scattered all over the ground. Kobe murmured, "Are all Navy so powerful?" Bai Ye's brutal attack instantly stunned the remaining pirates. Even Alrita herself was stunned in place, and she almost couldn't hold the mace in her hand. Fear swept through everyone's heart like a raging sea. This gap in strength was enough to make anyone despair. Every time Bai Ye took a step forward, the other pirates took 2 steps back. Seeing this, Bai Ye smiled and said, "Since you don't take the initiative to attack, then I will attack." This seemingly sunny smile revealed a different kind of coldness. It made everyone shudder. Before the words fell, several screams rang out. Those pirates disappeared without a trace, as if they had evaporated from the face of the earth. Alrita's fat body was trembling, and her legs seemed to be filled with lead, unable to move at all. From the time she set out to sea until now, she has also killed dozens of people. But this scene, which was like purgatory on earth, made her terrified. In a moment, there were only 3 living people left on the entire ship. Bai Ye, Kobe, and Alrita. Bai Ye specifically left Alrita for the last. Of course, this was not because Bai Ye had any special hobbies. After all, in terms of the original plot, Alrita and Kobe are both well-known people in the anime. So Bai Ye wanted to do an experiment. That is to keep one and kill one, and see which method can obtain more world source power. Unfortunately, Alrita was the one who was killed. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame her for not having eaten the slippery fruit yet. Alrita desperately waved the mace in her hand. Only in this way could she feel a little safe. The huge mace was wrapped in a strong wind and smashed towards Bai Ye fiercely. Bang! Bai Ye did not hesitate at all and broke the mace in one punch and then sent Alrita back to the furnace for recreation with another punch. I hope she will look normal in her next life. The system prompt sounded again. Gain 0.01 points of world source power. Gain 0.02 points of world source power. Gained 0.01 points of world source power. Gained 1 point of world source power. Ding. Congratulations to the host for killing Alrita, successfully changing the plot to Alrita fights Luffy, Alrita joins forces with buggy pirates, etc., and gaining world source power. 30 points. 30 points, which is much less than Kobe's 50 points. However, in the anime, Alrita's role is much smaller than Kobe's, so it is understandable. Bai Ye took off the light blue cloth strips and discarded the white gloves on his hands that were already stained with blood on the boat. When he met the Alrita pirates, Bai Ye directly gained 82 points of world power. It can be considered a great harvest. Host, Bai Ye. Template, One Punch Man, Saitama Fusion. 2%, World Power. 100, Fusion 2%, 3%, requires 20 world power. Opening the exchange shop requires 100 world power up. Looking at the system panel, Bai Ye was in a dilemma again. It was exactly 100 points of world power. It was enough to open the exchange shop, but it could also increase the fusion by several points. Bai Ye hesitated again and again, and still chose to increase the fusion. After all, every point of fusion increase would bring about earth-shaking changes to Bai Ye's strength. And in Bai Ye's original idea, there was one thing he had to try. If it was successfully completed, then Bai Ye would definitely gain a huge amount of world power. But if it didn't go well, then Bai Ye would also need enough power to help himself get out. Chapter 12 I'm a Navy Lieutenant. Looking at the existing world source power, Bai Ye gritted his teeth and reluctantly spent 60 points of world source power. Fusion degree 2% minus 3%, requires 20 world source power. Fusion degree 3% minus 4%, requires 40 world source power. The current system panel is as follows. Host, Bai Ye. Template, One Punch Man Saitama. Fusion degree 4%, world source power. 40 fusion degree 4% minus 5%, requires 80 world source power. Open the exchange store, requires 100 world source power. Bai Ye clenched his fist and felt a powerful force filling his body. This feeling is enough to make people immersed in it and unable to extricate themselves. After plundering the wealth of the Alrita pirates, taking some dry food and fresh water, Bai Ye took Kobe back to his original boat. After all, Alrita's ship became tattered in this battle. The deck was also horrible. If 2 people came to clean it up, they would probably be exhausted. When he returned to the ship, Bai Ye realized that he seemed to have acted too quickly. No navigator was left to guide the direction. Looking at Kobe beside him, Bai Ye asked in annoyance, "Kobe, can you read the nautical chart?" After Kobe took the nautical chart, he frowned and said seriously, "I have learned a little knowledge in this area before. There should be no problem with the nautical chart of the East China Sea." Bai Ye breathed a sigh of relief and said, "That's good. Now look at how far we are from Rogue Town. It is estimated to be 10 days away." 10 days. When I left, I heard them say that it only takes 8 days to get from Ski Island to Rogue Town. After hearing this, Kobe began to carefully look for the location of Ski Island on the map. Then he said, "If I'm not mistaken, the direction you set out should be the opposite. Gan. Then where is the nearest island we are now?" "It's the Windmill and Orange Island." Bai Ye's eyes flashed with a gleam, as if he saw the world source and the cute Nami waving to him. No, Nami doesn't seem to be an adult now. This is too evil. I must get rid of such an evil idea. Well, let's go to the Windmill and Orange Island. With the presence of Kobe, a half navigator, Bai Ye's next voyage was much smoother. In less than half a day, they successfully arrived at Kokoja village. Bai Ye jumped off the boat and said to Kobe, "Just stay on the boat and don't run around." Stepping on the soft sand, feeling the warm sunshine, I have to say that the environment of the pirate world is still very good. Bai Ye walked along the forest path for a while and saw Kokoja village. And in the village, there were several fishermen buildings with very obvious styles. Bai Ye narrowed his eyes and smiled. My world source of power, come and wait for dad's love. Just as Bai Ye was about to rush directly to the fisherman base, a crisp and pleasant voice suddenly came from not far behind him. Hey, who are you? What are you doing in our village? This voice sounds very familiar. Bai Ye looked back, and the first thing that caught his eye was a head of orange hair and a white and cute face. The pair of smart eyes stared at Bai Ye without any fear. There was a tattoo on the exposed left shoulder. If Bai Ye was not mistaken, the person who suddenly appeared in front of him should be Nami, the navigator of the Straw Hat Pirates. What a coincidence. Bai Ye was looking at Nami, and Nami was also looking at Bai Ye. Nami had just buried the stolen money and saw Bai Ye when she came out of the forest. When she saw Bai Ye actually wanted to enter the Kokoja village, she hurriedly stopped him. After all, the village is the world of fishmen. If the fishmen saw a strange face, they would probably kill this guy the first time. Nami then advised, you better leave this island as soon as possible. It's very dangerous in the village. Bai Ye knew that Nami was kind-hearted and was doing it for his own good, so he advised him to leave. However, the danger in Nami's eyes was nothing to him. Bai Ye smiled and said, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Nami blushed slightly when she saw Bai Ye's handsome face and warm smile, and her voice couldn't help but lowered a little. But it's really dangerous in the village. Bai Ye looked at the shy Nami and thought, in fact, I'm more dangerous than them. By the way, who are you, and why did you come to our village? Bai Ye said indifferently, I'm a navy. I heard that there are pirates doing evil here, so I came. When Nami heard that Bai Ye's identity was a navy, her face turned ugly. It was precisely because of the navies in action that the evil dragon dominated the Kokoja island for many years. This made Nami not very sensitive to the navy. However, when Nami heard that Bai Ye was here to deal with the evil dragon pirates, she was stunned for a moment. The chill disappeared, and her beautiful eyes revealed an unbelievable look. You just said, lead the way. 1 more second is a torture for you and the villagers. Are you alone? It will be very dangerous if you go alone. I'm very strong. Just take me with you. Nami didn't know why, but she took Bai Ye to the fisherman's house in a daze. It might be Bai Ye's gentle smile and the confidence revealed in his words that made Nami subconsciously believe what he said. Half an hour later, the two stood at the door of the Arlong pirate's lair. Nami only realized what she had done at this time. She didn't want Bai Ye to die in vain. Even though Bai Ye was the navy she hated. But from Bai Ye's extremely confident words, Nami felt a long-lost hope. For Nami, as long as there is a chance to get rid of the Arlong pirates, she will not hesitate at all, even at the cost of her life. After hesitating for a long time, Nami asked, since you dare to come alone to eliminate the dragon pirates, you must be very strong, right? You must also have a high position in the navy, right? In the navy, the stronger the strength, the higher the position, which is common sense on the sea. Bai Ye did not answer directly. Is this where the dragon pirates are? Nami nodded subconsciously. That's enough. After Bai Ye put on the gloves, he supported the wall with one hand and exerted force suddenly. Spider web-like cracks spread all over the wall that was hundreds of meters long. In Nami's horrified eyes, the wall collapsed with a loud bang, and the sound of the wall collapsing spread throughout the entire Kokoja village. Countless villagers came out to check what happened, especially when they found that the sound came from the direction of the dragon pirates. They were even more worried. They were afraid that the dragon pirates would attack the people in the village again. Bai Ye stepped over the ruined wall and said lightly, my name is Bai Ye, and my current official position is a lieutenant in the navy. Nami looked at Bai Ye, who had disappeared from her sight, and her delicate face was full of confusion. Since when has the navy's second lieutenant become so strong? Chapter 13 Guess. Along was leaning on a recliner, his hands crossed behind his head, lazily basking in the sun, thinking in his heart how long it would take to return to the Grand Line. When the time comes, he must prove to the world that humans are inferior creatures in front of fishmen. Ju and Kruby were lying on the sofa, basking in the sun, looking relaxed and comfortable. The whole fisherman's home boom. A sound broke the quiet and peaceful atmosphere. Ju and Kruby stood up in fear. Along also sat up, frowning, looking at the place where the wall collapsed with murderous eyes. At this moment, the air seemed to solidify. Tap, tat, tat. Clear footsteps came from the smoke and reached everyone's ears. An invisible sense of oppression filled the entire space. The comer is not friendly. Along waved his hand, and all the fishmen who were resting picked up their weapons and ambushed on the side. After a while, a black figure appeared from the smoke. Ju and Kruby, as cadres of the dragon pirates, looked at each other without any hesitation. They rushed into the smoke from the left and right, trying to strike first. Catcher. A crisp bone-breaking sound came from the smoke, and the faces of the surrounding fishmen showed a relaxed expression. In their opinion, if the two cadres attacked together, they would definitely be able to kill the attacker. Aaron's frown gradually calmed down, but there was still a trace of doubt in his heart. The next moment, footsteps sounded again, which made Aaron extremely alert. Because this time the footsteps were still only one person's. When the smoke dissipated, Bai Ye appeared in front of everyone unharmed, with the bodies of Jiu and Kruby lying at his feet. The heads and necks of the two fishmen were almost 90 degrees. It was obvious that the spine was directly broken by someone. After Aaron noticed this, he felt even more horrified. Because this means that the enemy in front of him solved Kruby and Jiu at the same time in an instant. Only in this way can the sound of bone cracking be explained. The enemy is extremely powerful. You lowly, damned human. How dare you kill the great fishman? Lowly human. Trash like you who fled from the Grand Line can only bully ordinary people without any strength in the weakest East China Sea. Why didn't you say he was a lowly human when you were captured by Admiral Kizaru? If Jinbei hadn't chosen to become one of the 7 warlords of the sea, a scum like you, no, fish scum, should have waited to die in the underwater prison. Upon hearing this, Arlong's muscles tensed up, and he unconsciously held the sword in his hand tighter. He didn't expect that the mysterious man in front of him actually knew his origins. And he also mentioned the shame of his life. Kizaru, that extremely powerful man, with a casual blow, severely injured himself and had to be captured by humans. This is the deepest shame in his heart. Along nervously said, "Who are you? Are you also from the Grand Line?" Bai Ye smiled. "Guess." Along didn't waste any more time talking to Bai Ye and immediately ordered all the fishmen to take action. Seeing this, Bai Ye secretly thought in his heart whether he should also train a group of subordinates. Otherwise, he would do it himself every time, which would not only be uncool, but also quite tiring. While thinking, Bai Ye dodged the siege of many fishmen like strolling in the garden. After images flashed by one after another, and the distance between Bai Ye and Along was getting closer and closer, in Along's terrified eyes, he appeared in front of him. "No matter who you are, I want you to be buried with Jiu and Kruby today. Die." Along shouted angrily, giving himself courage, and took out the sword from behind, and took the lead. "Shut up." Bai Ye punched out with a sharp sound of breaking through the air, directly hitting the sword in the air into a V shape. Along's hands were directly torn apart by the huge force, and blood stained his arms red. The whole person flew backwards and hit the wall. Aaron looked at the completely broken Zinfeng and said tremblingly, "How is this possible?" This was a weapon he made with the best metal from Fishman Island in the Forging Master, but it was destroyed by a punch. Bai Ye said in surprise, "Huh, I didn't expect that a punch didn't kill you." Although it was just a random punch from him, Aaron was able to resist and survive, which was indeed beyond his expectation. Aaron leaned against the wall and barely stood up. His hands were twitching because of the severe pain and he could no longer use any strength. "Who are you? You must be from the Grand Line, right? There can't be such a strong person in the East China Sea." Bai Ye laughed. "Guess. You." Aaron was already seriously injured by Bai Ye's punch and was so angry that he vomited blood and almost died on the spot. Nami, who was peeking at him not far away, saw that the extremely powerful Aaron was like a child who had not grown up in front of Bai Ye and had no power to fight back at all. Her heart was full of excitement. Kokoja village finally ushered in the light. Seeing Bai Ye's behavior, that almost pissed off Along to death. His big eyes curved into crescents and he almost laughed out loud. Hearing the noise from the fishman's house, the village policeman Jianzu of Kokoja village rushed over to check the situation. As soon as Kensuke arrived, He saw Nami lying in the corner like a kitten, secretly looking at something, so he asked in a low voice, "Nami, what happened here? Are these fishmen crazy again? These damn fishmen will destroy the Kokoja village sooner or later." Nami looked back at Kensuke with a sad face, sharing her joy, and said happily, "Uncle Kensuke, the Kokoja village is saved. We don't have to be bullied by the Arlong pirates anymore." "What?" Kensuke was shocked and asked in disbelief, "Have you already collected 100 million baileys and redeemed the Kokoja village from the Arlong pirates?" "Of course not. I'm still a lot short of bailey." At this point, Nami reacted and asked puzzledly, "Huh? Uncle Kensuke, how did you know that I needed to collect 100 million baileys?" Kensuke said awkwardly, "Ahem. Actually everyone knows about this, but I didn't tell you, because I didn't want to put too much pressure on you. You guys, forget it. Anyway, the history of Kokoja village will be rewritten from today." Nami showed Kensuke what happened in the fishman's house. Kensuke was shocked by what he saw. His eyes widened, his mouth opened wide, and he stammered, that young man beat Aaron to death." Nami looked at Kensuke's surprised expression and couldn't help laughing. "Isn't he awesome? You brought him here? Do you know him?" Nami said happily, "Yes, I picked him up at the beach. He said he was a lieutenant in the Navy and was here to deal with Aaron." Picked up at the beach? A lieutenant in the Navy? And he could kill Aaron? Kensuke was stunned. Is this even possible? Chapter 14 Colonel Mouse. Until his death, the three words guess kept circling in Alang's mind. But he still didn't know who the enemy in front of him was. After dealing with Alang, the fishmen around him looked at Bai Ye as if they saw a demon. Not to mention revenge for Alang, they all wanted to use all three legs, fearing that Bai Ye would attack them next. Run. Run quickly. Boss Alang and the others are dead. So one by one, the fishmen were like crazy, and they dived into the pool connected to the sea. In the sea, they swam with all their strength, trying to get away from the terrifying man. As for the idea of revenge, they didn't even think about it. Looking at the fishmen fleeing in panic, Bai Ye didn't rush to take action, thinking, "It seems that I didn't see the octopus Zioba. Maybe he took the manatee to eat? What a lucky boy." It's okay if he didn't meet Zioba, but if he did, Bai Ye would not be soft-hearted. Although Zioba didn't do much evil compared to other fishmen, his hands were not without the blood of innocent villagers. Moreover, he also enjoyed the resources that the dragon pirates had plundered from the villagers. Even if he was killed, he could not cry out for injustice. Nami walked in slowly and saw the bodies of Ju and Kruby lying at her feet, and Alang who had lost his breath not far away. The smell of blood in the air constantly stimulated Nami's nerves. A throbbing that she had never experienced before surged into her heart. Is it finally over? Has the pressure that has troubled the Kokoja village and weighed on me for 10 years disappeared today? Nami muttered with a dazed look. Bai Ye smiled. "It's not over yet." "What do you mean?" Nami looked puzzled. Bai Ye raised his right leg, twisted his waist, suddenly exerted force, and dropped his right foot violently. In an instant, an unparalleled force was transmitted to the ground. Under Bai Ye's precise control, the force only covered the part of the fishman's nest. The entire ground began to tremble violently, and the houses on the surface collapsed. The tower that had imprisoned Nami for 10 years also disappeared. Nami looked at the ruined fisherman's house, and a trace of relief flashed across her face. With a smile on her lips, 2 lines of tears slid down from the corners of her eyes. At this moment, she was truly free from all constraints. At the same time, the seawater on the sea surface turned scarlet, and countless flesh and blood floated on it. The scene was bloody and terrifying. Obviously, these were the fishmen who had escaped into the seawater before. However, they were all shaken into meat foam in the sea by the shaking force of Bai Ye's kick. Bai Ye took off his gloves with a calm face and threw them on Aaron's dead body. Bai Ye reached out and wiped away the tears on Nami's cheeks. "This is the real end." Nami raised her beautiful little face with a charming smile, and her smart eyes stared straight at the man in front of her. That already handsome face, at this moment, added a layer of fascinating light. At this time, Bai Ye heard the system prompt sound that kept echoing in his mind, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. Seeing the smile on Bai Ye's face, Nami's cheeks became hot and she murmured, Can I follow you? Don't get me wrong. I just want to draw nautical charts all over the world. This is my lifelong dream. After saying these words, Nami buried her head in her chest. Her two small white ears were like red crystals. But after a long while, Nami still didn't get a response. Looking up, Bai Ye seemed to have not heard what she said, and his expression did not change, still smiling. The shyness on her little face disappeared immediately, and she began to sulk. Of course, Bai Ye at this time had no mind to care about the things around him. Instead, he was immersed in the wonderful prompt sound of the system. Gained 1.5 points of world source power. Gained 1.8 points of world source power. Gained 0.08 points of world source power. Gained 0.05 points of world source power. Gained 5 points of world source power. This is too cool, right? The strength of fishmen is generally much stronger than that of ordinary pirates. So the harvest of world source power is also extremely rich. Just destroying the dragon pirates brought 12 points of profit. There will be another large profit from the event settlement later. This trip to Kokoja village can be said to be very fruitful. When Bai Ye came back to his senses from the joy of the rich harvest, he saw Nami's puffy face like a bun. What's wrong? What happened again? Nami uttered two words from between her clenched teeth. Nothing. The two small canine teeth were grinding and clacking. Thinking of what happened just now, Nami felt her face flushed. Bai Ye looked at Nami and felt that she looked a little strange, but he didn't think much about it. Instead, he began to think about it, always feeling that something was missing this time. For example, it should have happened, but it didn't happen. It seemed that things were not complete. Nami saw Bai Ye frowning again, and she knew that Bai Ye didn't hear what she said at all. Her angry feet kept kicking on the ground. What is missing? Why hasn't it been settled yet? At this time, a crisp whistle sounded from outside. Bai Ye knew immediately that it was the whistle of the Navy. Da-da-da. There were dense footsteps coming from the periphery. Judging from the sound, there were nearly 100 people in the team. Bai Ye's eyes lit up as he looked at the wretched figure that walked in from the door. That's right, it turns out that you are the one missing. That's right, in the anime, the captain of the 16th branch of the Navy, Colonel Mouse, was also destroyed along with the dragon pirates. If Colonel Mouse had not been in cahoots with the dragon pirates, with the crimes of the dragon pirates, once reported to a higher level of the Navy, it would definitely attract the attention of the top leaders. It would not have led to the current situation. The dragon pirates have been rampant here for more than 10 years, and the Kokoja village has suffered more than 10 years of pain and torture. When Colonel Mouse and his men came in, they were shocked by the tragic scene inside. Whether it was the lifeless Chuan Kruby lying at their feet, or the panic-stricken Alan who was broken into two pieces not far away, or the scarlet flesh and blood floating on the more than 10-meter wide pool, everything confirmed a horrible thing. The dragon pirates were wiped out, and the one who did it should be the man standing there with a calm face. His strength should be terrifying. However, Colonel Mouse also had his own plans. He waved his hand and ordered, "Come on. Surround them." Nami saw this, and quickly argued loudly, "We are not pirates. We are not pirates. The pirates have all been killed by Bai Ye. He is also a Navy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Artificial Fountain. Although Nami hated the inaction of the Navy, after meeting Bai Ye, Nami's concept of the Navy changed a little. When Colonel Mouse heard that Bai Ye was also a Navy, he couldn't help but be alert. He didn't come here to avenge Arlang. In recent years, the money Arlang earned from exploiting the civilians under his command, in addition to giving a part to Colonel Mouse's hush money for not reporting it, the rest was all kept. This time, Colonel Mouse saw that the dragon pirates had something wrong, and he was ready to embezzle all the property of the dragon pirates. "Are you also a Navy?" Colonel Mouse asked suspiciously. Bai Ye took out his ID indifferently and threw it to Colonel Mouse. Colonel Mouse saw that Bai Ye was so calm and could solve the dragon pirates alone. He must be a colonel or major general of the headquarters. Colonel Mouse took the ID without even looking at it and immediately put on a flattering smile and quickly withdrew the soldiers around him. This is all a misunderstanding. I thought it was a vendetta between pirates. If the man in front of him was really a brigadier general or major general of the headquarters. Colonel Mouse, and a long trivial matter, once discovered, there is only one way out, which is death. How could Colonel Mouse not be afraid? Nami was also confused by Colonel Mouse's chameleon-like behavior. Logically speaking, isn't the colonel higher than the lieutenant? How come Colonel Mouse is like a mouse seeing a cat when he sees Bai Ye? He is so scared. Bai Ye slowly walked to Colonel Mouse, grabbed Colonel Mouse's collar with one hand, and lifted him up directly. Colonel Mouse was like a dehydrated turtle. His hands and feet kept swinging, trying to break free. Hey, what are you doing? Put down our commander. Put down the commander, or we will shoot. Let go. The surrounding Navy soldiers were all panicked when they saw their commander being lifted up. Sir, what are you doing? Colonel Mouse kept defending himself. I didn't do anything illegal. I'm a Navy colonel. Bai Ye narrowed his eyes and said coldly, you know you're a Navy colonel? Aaron told me everything about you before he died. This meaningful sentence scared Colonel Mouse into a cold sweat. For a moment, he even forgot to struggle. Colonel Mouse knew that he was definitely dead, but he wanted to resist one last time before he died. He's not a Navy at all. He's a big pirate. Shoot him. Kill him. Colonel Mouse screamed with all his might. Bang, bang, bang. Nearly 100 guns burst into dazzling flames at the same time, and bullets attacked Bai Ye like a torrent. You asked for this. Bai Ye burst into an astonishing murderous intent and threw Colonel Mouse into the torrent of bullets. Colonel Mouse didn't even last 3 seconds and was instantly shot into a sieve by bullets. The death was horrible. Bai Ye appeared beside Nami and hugged her slender waist. Nami screamed. The two flew into the air. The adjutant of the Navy quickly ordered the soldiers to continue shooting at Bai Ye and Nami in the sky. Nearly 100 Navy soldiers just turned their guns to the sky and prepared for the second round of volleys. Too slow. Bai Ye said calmly. At this moment, Bai Ye's expression became extremely serious, and his face, which seemed to be carved, revealed an indescribable determination. The huge power flowed through his body and finally concentrated on his right fist. The powerful and violent power was like a storm, circling around Bai Ye and rushing into the sky. With one punch, it seemed that even the heaven and earth were suppressed. A fist mark was instantly printed on the ground that was enough to cover a radius of several miles. The entire Kokoja village shook, as if it would cease to exist in the next moment. The area where the Navy and others were standing collapsed in an instant and sank dozens of meters deep. Countless seawater gushed out from the ground, filling up the collapsed area. Nami widened her eyes and opened her mouth slightly, not daring to believe what she saw. Nami was a little incoherent. The power of a punch sank the ground within a radius of several miles, and the gushing seawater filled up the depression. Nami didn't even dare to think about such a thing before. But now, it happened in front of her. Then Bai Ye brought Nami to the land several miles away. When her feet touched the thick ground again, Nami came back to her senses from what had just happened. Bai Ye looked at Nami's cute absent-minded look and felt it was quite interesting. Well, this matter has been perfectly resolved, Bai Ye said with a smile. Nami heard a hint of departure from Bai Ye's words, and her little hands, which had not yet let go, grabbed the corner of Bai Ye's clothes and asked in panic, "Are you leaving?" "Of course, I'm a Navy. I can't stay in one place forever, can I?" "Okay." Nami's face was full of reluctance, and the spirit in her eyes dimmed a little. For some reason, this stranger who had known each other for less than a day had left an indelible impression in her heart. I wanted to stay with him, but I didn't know what reason to keep him. The two walked to the coast in silence. Kobe, who had been waiting on the boat for a long time, shouted excitedly after seeing Bai Ye. "Brother Bai Ye, you are finally back." "Who is this?" Nami asked playfully. Before Bai Ye could reply, Kobe said excitedly, "My name is Kobe, and I want to become a Navy as powerful as Brother Bai Ye." "Navy?" Nami's smart big eyes blinked, and I don't know what she was thinking. After Bai Ye said goodbye to Nami, he gradually disappeared from Nami's sight. Nami looked at the sea, clenched her fists and said firmly, "We will meet again one day." "Definitely." Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully changing the plot. Luffy destroys the dragon pirates, eliminating the navy scum Colonel Mouse, etc., and obtaining world source power. 80 points. Ding. The host has a significant impact on the main character, Nami, due to participating in the plot of Kakosia Village, and is rewarded with an additional world source power. 100 points, 180 points of world source power, in addition to the 12 points of world source power obtained by eliminating the dragon pirates, and the 3 points of world source power brought by Colonel Mouse and others. This time, Kakosia Village directly brought 195 points of world source power. World source power. 235 points. Bai Ye did not hesitate this time and directly chose to open the exchange store. Do you want to spend 100 points of world source power to open the exchange store? Yes. Successfully opened the exchange store. World source power. 135 points. Exchange store. Level 1. Chapter 16 Exchange Shop. Bai Ye carefully checked the items in the exchange shop. The word item may not be very accurate. It should be said to be characters. The function opened in the level 1 exchange shop is to exchange characters. Level 1 exchange shop. The corresponding exchange character world is One Punch Man. Upgrade the exchange shop to unlock characters and items in more worlds. Because the host is a navy and belongs to the justice side, exchanging characters from the Hero Association will reduce the world source power consumption by 20%. Bai Ye murmured. That means my little brothers are coming. S-level strong exchange list. Unbeatable legend. Genis. Requires world source power. 300 points. Tornado of Thrill. Requires world source power. 1200 points. Explosion. Requires world source power. 1500 points. Emperor Engine. King. Requires world source power. 10 points. Corresponding to this, there is also an exchange list for the Monster Association. For example, Black Sperm, Monster King Orochi, Centipede Elder, Garou. These powerful villains are all on the exchangeable list. It's just that there is no discount for people who exchange for the Monster Association. Bai Ye's current world source power was not enough, so he did not put it in his plan. However, after reading the exchange list, Bai Ye realized how scarce world source power was. With his current world source power, he could only exchange for King and Genis. As for the characters below S level, Bai Ye was too lazy to even look at them. Of course, Baldy is a character that cannot be exchanged. Exchanging them would only waste world source power. After careful consideration, Bai Ye still did not exchange the characters immediately, because there are still many plot points that can be interfered in the East China Sea. The exchange of characters can be slow, and it is not so urgent. It is better to focus on improving one's own strength first. So Bai Ye spent 80 points of world source power to increase the fusion degree. Host, Bai Ye. Template, One Punch Man, Saitama, fusion degree. 5%, world source power. 45 fusion degree 5% minus 6%, requires a world source power of 160. Open the exchange level 2 store, requires a world source power of 1000. The strength increased again. In the next few days, a legend about a Navy lieutenant suddenly began to spread in the East China Sea. At first, this news was only spread among some low-level pirates. But later, all the pirates who were a little famous in the East China Sea knew about the story of Lieutenant Bai Ye. In addition, those passers-by who had really seen Bai Ye in action came forward to tell their stories, making the spread wider and wider. On a certain island, in a huge tavern, hundreds of pirates were drinking and having fun, making a lot of noise, and having a great time. Hahaha, I slaughtered a village a few days ago, and robbed a full 8 million baileys. The burly pirate sitting next to him shouted loudly, your money is nothing. It's only 8 million baileys and you have the nerve to say it. While speaking, he took out a large black suitcase from behind, and when he opened it, it was full of green baileys. The burly pirate said complacently, look, these are a full 15 million baileys. Aren't they better than you, a piece of trash? The eyes of all the pirates present when looking at the box of baileys changed subtly. After all, everyone went out to sea and became a pirate for money. Now that there is so much money in front of them, it would be a lie to say that they are not tempted at all. The atmosphere in the tavern has changed, and a faint murderous intent permeates the air. Some pirates even subconsciously put their hands on their weapons. Only then did the burly man react, and realized how stupid he had done. Seeing that the eyes of the pirates around him seemed to want to eat him alive, he was immediately sweating profusely. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded, attracting everyone's attention. "I say, have you forgotten one thing?" The man who stood up in front of the wine table said coldly, "When you choose to join the Creek Pirates, all your gains need to be handed over to Captain Creek to deal with. If someone wants to embezzle it, this table will be his end." Bang! With a loud bang, two weapons similar to crutches with iron balls at the end directly smashed two holes in a wine table. The burly pirate thought about it, and picked up the leather box full of Baileys, and handed it to Ajin. "Captain Ajin, these were originally meant to be handed over to Captain Creek, so I'll give them to you for safekeeping," the burly pirate said flatteringly. Ajin took the box, threw it to the younger brother behind him casually, and said lightly, "I hope you can figure out your identity. You are not the captain of a pirate group now, but one of the teams under the Creek Pirates. I don't want such things to happen again. Got it? Got it?" The pirates present had seen Ajin's powerful strength, and coupled with Ajin's words full of warning at this time, how dare they make trouble again? A pirate suddenly asked, "That, Captain Ajin, is there something important that Captain Creek called us all back this time?" Ajin nodded and said, "This small East China Sea can no longer accommodate our Creek Pirates. We are preparing to attack the Grand Line." The pirates were stunned at first, and then their faces were filled with uncontrollable ecstasy. The Grand Line, that is the road that the Pirate King Roger has walked. Being able to go to the Grand Line means that they are one step closer to One Piece. It is the great treasure that all pirates dream of. Seeing that all the pirates were very excited, Ajin nodded with satisfaction. At this critical moment, it is necessary to motivate the pirates under his command and awaken their fighting spirit. Otherwise, how can they survive in a place like the Grand Line? At this time, Ajin suddenly saw that the expression of a pirate was seriously inconsistent with the current atmosphere. With a sad face and a look of wanting to say something but stopping, Ajin could not help but frown. The burly pirate had been paying attention to Ajin's expression. Seeing Ajin frowning, he followed Ajin's gaze and shouted, "Gerald, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't look bitter like a dead horse. That's right. We are the big pirates who are going to attack the Grand Line. Be happy. Countless money and beauties are waiting for us to conquer." The pirates present were basically excited by the news that they were about to go to the Grand Line. Ajin also said with a little dissatisfaction, "Gerald, what do you want to say?" Jared stammered, "Captain Ajin, I heard recently that someone has been inquiring about the whereabouts of our Creek Pirates, and it seems that they want to attack us." "Oh." Ajin's poker face showed a hint of sneer, which made him look even more frightening. "Who is the one who is not afraid of death? How dare he prepare to deal with our Creek Pirates?" The pirates were even more furious, and they all cursed. "We are the largest pirate group in the East China Sea. Captain Creek is going to be the Pirate King, who dares to mess with us? Even the Navy will retreat after seeing us." Jared uttered a few words tremblingly. "It seems to be Lieutenant Bai Ye of the Navy." Chapter 17. White Knight. White Knight arrives. As soon as the words fell, it was as if everyone was strangled by an invisible hand, unable to make any sound. The whole place was silent. The confidence of the people before was completely gone, and there was no longer the arrogance of the strongest pirate group in the East China Sea. It was like a fire that had just been lit and was instantly extinguished by a heavy rain. Navy Lieutenant Bai Ye. Although he was called a lieutenant, what he did was impossible for even a Navy colonel to accomplish. This name swept the entire East China Sea like a storm within half a month. First, the Blood Wolf with a bounty of 15 million berries died in his hands. Then, the Alrita pirates with a bounty of 5 million berries, the Dragon pirates with a bounty of 20 million berries, and even the Black Cat pirates, which had disappeared in the East China Sea for several years, and had a total bounty of 35 million berries, were found and killed by Navy Lieutenant Bai Ye. As for the other pirate groups, every one of them was counted, and almost no one was left alive when they encountered Bai Ye. As a result, there are fewer and fewer new pirates in the East China Sea in the past half month, and they dare not go out to sea at all. The old pirate groups also hide as much as possible to avoid encountering Bai Ye. I didn't expect that such a terrifying guy would actually target them. The burly man plucked up his courage and forced a smile. Even if it is Bai Ye, so what? Our Creek pirates are the strongest pirates in the East China Sea. If Bai Ye dares to trouble us, he will definitely seek his own death. At that time, let all the navy in the East China Sea know the strength of our Creek pirates. After saying this, the atmosphere that had condensed into ice at the scene was slightly eased, and smiles appeared on everyone's faces again. Another pirate said with a flushed face and a little drunkenness, "That's right, if Bai Ye dares to come, I will definitely chop off his head and give it to Captain Creek." Everyone laughed immediately. Bang, bang, bang. Is anyone there? The sudden knock on the door was clearly heard by everyone. The pirates stopped laughing suddenly. "You don't have to be silent. I know you are inside. Since you don't open the door, I'll go in by myself." The next moment, the door was pushed to the ground, and dazzling sunlight shone in from the gap in the door. A very young man walked in and smiled. "Sorry, I used a little too much force." Jin picked up his weapon and asked with a frown, "Who are you? How dare you come here to cause trouble? Don't you know that we are from the Creek Pirates?" "Who am I? Weren't you talking about me just now?" Bai Ye sneered. "Also, I just know that you are from the Creek Pirates, so I'm here." At this point, how could the pirates present not understand that the young man in front of them was the person they had talked about before? Navy Lieutenant Bai Ye, the man who could scare the entire East China Sea pirates. When everyone talked about Bai Ye before, although they were afraid in their hearts, they were not terrified to the extreme. After all, if the knife is not on the neck, you will not experience the fear of being on the verge of death. But now, the knife is already on their necks. A man's reputation is like a tree's shadow. Ajin had no doubt about Bai Ye's strength, and now was a critical moment for the Creek pirates. This kind of meaningless battle should be avoided as much as possible. He didn't want to make some trouble at this time, and cause trouble for Captain Creek. So, Ajin asked in a very sincere manner, "I don't know how the Creek pirates offended you, so that you would go around looking for information and specifically find us." Bai Ye raised his eyebrows and said, "Are you not smart enough?" This sarcastic remark immediately ignited Ajin's suppressed anger. Ajin said sternly, "Bai Ye, don't think that you can ignore the Creek pirates just because you killed those inferior pirates. Our Creek pirates are the pirates that are about to enter the Grand Line." Bai Ye waved his hand and said, "Don't make me laugh anymore. Just based on the question you asked just now, your Creek pirates are a little bit NT. I'm a Navy, you are a pirate, and you still ask me why I look for you. With your IQ, no wonder you didn't survive a few episodes in the anime." Hearing Bai Ye's answer, Ajin was stunned. Although Bai Ye's title is a Navy Lieutenant, they have never seen a Navy Lieutenant who can stir up a bloody storm in the East China Sea. So they subconsciously ignored the word Navy that best reflects Bai Ye's identity. Ajin waved two crutches with iron balls at the ends, and said with gritted teeth, "Since you are determined to die, I will not stop you. Everyone, do it." At such a close distance, the pirates present picked up their weapons and rushed up. Bai Ye put on gloves and shook his head. "No need, really no need." Ajin rushed to Bai Ye's side, raised his iron crutches with both hands and smashed them hard at Bai Ye. "I want to let you know what the end will be if you provoke the Creek pirates," Ajin said with a grim face. Bai Ye looked directly at Ajin's fierce eyes and smiled. "The end is that the Creek pirates will be wiped out." With a wave of his right hand, crack, crack, the sound of broken bones suddenly rang out. Ajin screamed in pain, and the iron crutches in his hand could not be clenched and fell to the ground. "My arms." Ajin looked at his soft arms with horror. His bones were broken, and he could no longer use any strength. "I'll spare your life first. I have something to ask you later," Bai Ye said lightly. As he spoke, most of the pirates had already died in Bai Ye's hands. Every punch would kill several people. It took no more than 3 seconds for the pirates present to rush towards Bai Ye and run away with their hands and feet. This guy's not a human, he is a monster. Run quickly, I don't want to die here. Run separately, he can't kill all of us at the same time. The pirates wished they could grow 2 more legs and stay away from that devil. Looking at the pirates' fleeing backs, Bai Ye sighed. Alas, after this job is done, I will quickly exchange for a subordinate. It is really tiring to do everything by myself. Under Bai Ye's precise control, in addition to Ajin, 3 other pirates were saved. The 3 pirates knew they could not escape, so they all knelt down in front of Bai Ye, kowtowed and begged for mercy. Uncle Bai Ye, please let us go. We are just small minions of the Creek Pirates. We don't know anything. Ajin is the captain of the Creek Pirates. He definitely knows more than us. In order to save his life, the 3rd pirate turned around and sold out Ajin. Chapter 18. Ghost? Strange man. The veins on Ajin's forehead bulged, and his eyes stared at the person who was speaking. If his arms had not been broken by Bai Ye, he would have been killed on the spot. This is the pirate. Bai Ye had no time to deal with the ugly faces of these guys. Who of you can tell me where Creek is? These pirates in front of him were just small dishes, and the entire Creek Pirates were what Bai Ye wanted to deal with. This was also one of the few plot points that could be changed in the East China Sea. The 3 pirates kneeling on the ground simultaneously set their eyes on Ajin, and Ajin raised his neck, looking like he would never say anything even if he died. Bai Ye sighed and said, "Oh, you are quite arrogant, why bother?" He twisted his right thumb and index finger lightly, and suddenly released it, and an invisible energy shot straight to Ajin's right knee. Crack. Ah. The sound of bones breaking from Ajin's knee mixed with the screams. 3 of his 5 limbs were disabled. Ajin looked painful, his face was pale, his body was swaying, his right leg was unable to exert force, and he barely managed to stand up and not fall to the ground. The 3 pirates kneeling on the ground looked at Ajin's miserable state, their faces full of panic, sweat pouring down like a spring. "Will you tell me or not?" The pirate who sold Ajin before was about to speak, and Bai Ye shot out another burst of energy. Ajin screamed again, and the only intact left leg was also crippled by Bai Ye. Ajin collapsed to the ground, raised his head, and looked at Bai Ye with hatred. If ice could kill, Bai Ye would have been tortured thousands of times. "Why are you asking them questions and hitting me? You hit them." Unfortunately, the anger of the weak is useless. The 3 pirates were frightened by Bai Ye's cruel methods, and rushed to tell Bai Ye the news of the Creek Pirates. "Thank you so much for the news." After getting the information he wanted, Bai Ye smiled brightly. The 3 pirates kneeling on the ground seemed to have seen the hope of life, and hurriedly begged Bai Ye to let them go. "Don't worry, since you want to leave so much, I will send you away." As soon as Bai Ye finished speaking, 3 streams of energy had already passed through the heads of the 3 people, leaving wounds as thick as fingers, and blood was pouring out. The 3 people died instantly. At this time, Ajin's eyes looking at Bai Ye had changed, and there was a deep fear in the depths of his eyes. Ajin believed that he was a ruthless person, but after seeing Bai Ye, Ajin found that his ruthlessness was far inferior to Bai Ye. The severe pain of broken limbs tortured Ajin all the time. This feeling of living worse than death made Ajin give up the hope of life. "Since you already know the news you want to know, then kill me." Bai Ye shook his head and sighed. "There is an old saying that it is better to live than to die. Why would you want to die when you have a chance to live?" Ajin watched Bai Ye take out a purple object the size of a heart from his arms. What frightened Ajin even more was that this purple heart was beating, expanding, and contracting like a real heart. The purple blood vessels on it were clearly visible, densely packed, and entangled in a ball. Monster cells can greatly improve the physical fitness of the eater and transform it into the most suitable monster shape for fighting. The eater will completely obey the host. 1 point of world source power is required for redemption. This was exchanged temporarily from the store by Bai Ye when he saw Ajin. Monster cells like this can quickly create a large number of powerful subordinates. It's just that Bai Ye is short of world source power now, and he doesn't need so many subordinates. The reason why I thought of giving Ajin monster cells was just because I saw various speculations about Ajin in my previous life. Some said that Ajin was Green Bull, one of the 3 future admirals of the Navy, and some said that he was the child of Kaido and Charlotte Linlin. Anyway, there were all kinds of bizarre and weird statements, So Bai Ye had an idea and prepared to give Ajin the monster fruit. Ajin, who had been tough all along, finally burst out with the fear that had been suppressed until Bai Ye forced the beating heart into his mouth. This was the fear of the unknown, and also the fear of Bai Ye's methods. Ajin was shocked and angry. "What did you give me to eat?" Bai Ye looked at Ajin and said lightly, "A good thing can make you stronger and let you realize all the evil thoughts in your heart. So you should thank me. After all, this thing is quite expensive." Ajin was about to curse, but he felt a sharp pain deep into his bone marrow. His heart seemed to be grabbed and crushed by a huge palm in an instant. The meridians in his body twisted, and the blood flowed backwards, like a steamed prawn, and his skin was pale red. A cry that was several times more miserable than before came out of Ajin's mouth. Bai Ye scratched his ears, and felt that the sound was a bit harsh. After a few minutes, the heartbreaking screams finally stopped. Ajin lay on the ground, as if he had lost his vitality, and the sweat soaked the ground around him. The ground was full of traces left by the struggle just now. "Is he dead?" Bai Ye, who had been observing Jin, asked in confusion. This possibility was not impossible. After all, not everyone could withstand the strength of monster cells. What a pity. Time and world source power were wasted in vain. Bai Ye shook his head and sighed. These can only be made up from the Creek pirates. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he heard a heavy gasp behind him. A low roar sounded from time to time, and a figure continued to grow. When Bai Ye turned around, the figure had grown to more than 4 meters, with explosive muscles all over his body, full of power. The most eye-catching thing was that Jin's 2 arms had an extra section of bone, and a basketball-sized spherical object was formed at the end of the bone. Isn't this the weapon that Jin held before? So that's it. Bai Ye now understood the true meaning of the introduction of monster cells, which can make the eater become the most suitable form for fighting. A man-eating breath suddenly burst out from Jin, and the airwave washed Bai Ye's clothes with a rustling sound. The invisible airwave completely destroyed the walls of the tavern. The wooden tables, chairs, and benches turned into powder in the air. A huge black shadow enveloped Bai Ye. It seemed that it would attack Bai Ye in the next moment. "Enough of the trouble, let's return to the way it was," Bai Ye said calmly. "We still have to kill Creek." Ajin lowered his huge head and said in a buzzing voice, "I will follow your orders, sir." The body of more than 4 meters in height became less than 2 meters in the blink of an eye and returned to its original appearance. It seemed that the scene that just appeared was an illusion. Chapter 19: The Terrifying Power of the Monster. An unknown island where the Creek pirates were stationed. The sky gradually darkened and the night fell. Thousands of pirates gathered here, and the figure of Creek, the leader, looked even more burly under the light of the fire. Suddenly, Creek kicked the fire, and sparks flew everywhere. Some flames splashed on other pirates, causing a slight commotion. The others didn't dare to say a word. Creek said impatiently, "What's going on? It's already this time, why hasn't Ajin come back yet?" As one of the senior leaders of the Creek pirates, the Iron Wall Beru hurriedly explained, "Could it be that we met the Navy on the way back?" Creek curled his lips disdainfully and said, "Navy? The Navy will go around when they see our Creek pirates and dare to attack us on their own initiative?" Beru said embarrassedly, "Under normal circumstances, this is indeed the case, but recently a new Navy lieutenant has appeared in the East China Sea, named Bai Ye. There are already more than a dozen pirate groups that have died in his hands, and even many pirates with bounties of tens of millions of baileys have died in his hands. If Ajin and his group meet Bai Ye on the way back, I'm afraid they will really be in big trouble." "Humph, what Navy lieutenant? Isn't it that the Navy puts all the credit on one person and deliberately promotes this person?" Creek said disdainfully. "Otherwise, how can a Navy lieutenant be so strong?" Creek naturally heard of Bai Ye's name, but after getting the news, he didn't take it to heart. As the two were talking, one of their subordinates shouted nervously, "Captain Creek, Captain Akin is back." Creek and Baloo both heard something wrong from their shouts. "What's going on?" "Including Captain Akin, there are only 2 people back." Creek was shocked when he heard this, and hurriedly took Baloo to check the situation. When he saw that Akin only came back with a strange face, Creek's face suddenly changed, and he said angrily, "Akin, where are the pirate groups you brought? Why didn't any of them come back?" However, Akin, who used to worship Creek as a god, now ignored Creek's question. He ignored it at all. Baloo was also angered by Akin's attitude and said fiercely, "Akin, what's your attitude? Didn't you even hear what Captain Creek said?" But Akin still looked confused, without any change. Just when Creek was about to get angry, a chuckle suddenly sounded. "Haha, you don't need to say anything more. It's useless to say more." Creek frowned, looked at Bai Ye standing next to Ajin, and asked in a bad tone, "Who are you? Why haven't I seen you before?" Bai Ye smiled faintly. "In order to make you understand, I will introduce myself first. Navy Lieutenant Bai Ye." "What? You are Navy Lieutenant Bai Ye?" Beru was shocked. The pirates who surrounded him subconsciously stepped back a few steps when they heard Bai Ye's name. Creek's face changed. He didn't expect Bai Ye to come to his door. And he brought his most trusted subordinate, the ghost Ajin. "Ajin, you brought the enemy here. Are you going to betray me?" Creek picked up the 2000 Jin gun and pointed it at Ajin and asked, "Excuse me, let me introduce you again. This is my subordinate weirdo Ajin." Bai Ye smiled. "Ajin, kill it." "Yes." Ajin spit out these two words expressionlessly. Creek laughed in anger. "You are such an ignorant kid. I don't know what you did to seduce Ajin and make him obey your orders. But Ajin used to be my subordinate, and I know his strength too well. Do you think you two can get rid of us?" Bai Ye sneered. "Today I will let you know a truth. What is different now than in the past? Iron Wall Baloo was ready for battle. Captain Creek, Ajin has betrayed us. Let's just do it." Creek was a heartless person. When Ajin brought Bai Ye to this place, in his heart, he had already sentenced Ajin to death. Creek shouted, "Go, kill the two enemies in front of you." As soon as Creek finished speaking, Baloo waved a small round shield and rushed to Ajin at the first time. Compared with Bai Ye, whose strength was unknown, Baloo knew more about the strength of Ajin, who was his companion before. In general, the two were almost equal in strength, but because Ajin was extremely loyal to Creek, Creek valued Ajin more. As senior cadres, Ajin's status was higher than Baloo's. Baloo was upset for a long time. But who would have thought that Ajin, who was known for his loyalty, would actually betray Captain Creek? "Ajin, you really made the right choice." Baloo sneered. Baloo rushed to Ajin quickly, holding the round shield in both hands, one on the left and one on the right, and hit Ajin's head directly. "I can finally become the second in command of the Creek pirates. Except for Captain Creek, no one can be above me," Baloo said fiercely with a ferocious look. A trace of bloodthirstiness flashed in Baloo's eyes, as if he had seen Ajin's head being squeezed and exploded like a watermelon. "Go to hell." The two shields hit Ajin's head fiercely, ding, making a harsh collision sound. The next moment, although Ajin was hit, Baloo's face did not show any joy, but was full of panic. The double shields only left two faint white spots on Jin's face, which fell off with a gentle wipe. You are not Jin. Who are you?" Baloo said in horror. With a full strength blow from Baloo, he could even squeeze a piece of iron into a piece of paper. But he failed to cause any damage to Jin, which was completely beyond Baloo's expectations. When Creek saw this scene, his face sank. "What did you do to Jin?" Bai Ye said indifferently. "The good show is just about to begin." "Ah!" A deafening roar suddenly came from Jin's mouth, and the invisible sound waves spread wildly in all directions. The weaker pirates' ears were bleeding, and they were shocked. "Monster! Monster!" someone shouted. Jin turned into a monster, and his height of 4 meters shocked everyone. His muscles bulged all over his body, and his eyes were full of crazy murderous intent. His combat power was strengthened in all aspects, and he appeared in front of Baloo with a move. The bone hammer on his right arm hit the shield on Baloo's chest heavily. With a clang, the shield shattered into pieces, and the huge impact force penetrated his body. Baloo vomited blood and fell to the ground with unwillingness in his eyes. Then Ajin was like a tiger into a wolf pack, quickly killing the pirates around him. There were cries of grief everywhere. This was a one-sided killing. Chapter 20 The Final Purpose. Creek felt horrified watching Ajin's frantic killing. He knew in his heart that even he was probably no match for Ajin. Moreover, Bai Ye, who had not yet made a move, was the biggest enemy. But even so, Creek did not want to give up his last hope and wanted to struggle again. HMPH, I want to let you know what it means to be the strongest pirate in the East China Sea. Creek waved his spear, and his golden battle suit shone brightly under the moonlight. At this moment, he looked like the god of war descending. Really? You're pretty tough. Bai Ye chuckled. Ajin, go find Creek, and play with him. Ajin flashed behind Creek, and with both crutches, he chopped down with all his strength. The weapon rubbed violently with the air, and sparks came out. Creek reacted very quickly, raised his spear, and held it horizontally above his head, and smashed his crutches heavily on the spear. Bang! For a moment, the ground shook, and the nearby sea surface raised layers of waves. Creek was smashed directly into the ground, and a deep pit several meters wide appeared on the ground. At this time, Creek's golden battlesuit was broken into pieces, and the big gun had already broken into two halves. The whole person's face was covered with blood, and the bones of both arms were broken, which was very miserable. Just when Ajin was about to give a fatal blow, Creek suddenly begged, I was wrong. Don't kill me, I'm willing to be your subordinate. Although Creek's surrender was despicable, Bai Ye did not refuse his surrender. No matter what Creek planned, as long as he ate the monster cells, everything would be a foregone conclusion. Bai Ye had no reason to refuse. It must be said that Creek could become the strongest pirate in the East China Sea. In addition to his shameless means, Creek's talent was also unattainable for normal people. Possessing a strange power that ordinary people can't compare to, he can wield a big gun weighing more than 2,000 pounds with one arm. After taking the monster cells, his strength after transformation instantly surpassed Ajin. Bai Ye also received a system prompt sound and successfully changed the plot. After more than half a month, Bai Ye basically changed the original plot that he remembered. For example, on Gare Island, the Black Cat pirates were killed. It was just bad luck that no trace of Usopp was found on Gare Island. Open the system panel. Host, Bai Ye. Template, One Punch Man. Saitama Fusion. 5%. World Source. 745. Fusion 5%. 6%. Requires 160 world source. Open the exchange level 2 store. Requires 1000 world source. 745 world source is the result of Bai Ye's struggle for more than half a month. Fusion 6%. 7%. Requires 200 world source. Fusion 7%. 8%. Requires 240 world source. Bai Ye directly made up his mind to increase the fusion by 3 points, spending 600 world source. Host, Bai Ye. Template, One Punch Man. Saitama Fusion. 8%. World source power. 145. Feeling the power filling his body, Bai Ye let out a long sigh and murmured, perhaps I'm now qualified to stand in front of him? Just 3 days ago, after Bai Ye dealt with the Black Cat pirates, he wanted to experiment with a crazy idea, an idea that popped up in his mind as soon as he got the system. That is, should we try to kill the son of the world, Luffy? Once this idea appeared, it was like a wildfire that could no longer be suppressed. Through the matter of changing Nami's fate, it can be noticed that for the important characters in the original work, the benefits of blindly killing are not as much as those of continuously participating in events. However, if people have to consider the gains and losses of everything in their lives, then life is too tiring. So Bai Ye went to Windmill Village. Maybe it was really God who was blessing Luffy. When Bai Ye went there a few days ago, Luffy's grandfather, the naval hero Garp, was also in Windmill Village. Even though Bai Ye did not have direct contact with Garp, he felt great pressure from Garp. If he attacked by force, the chance of success would be very small. Moreover, Bai Ye still needed the identity of the Navy, so he had to put aside the matter of killing Luffy, and decided to deal with the Creek pirates first. Now that the fusion degree has been increased by 3 points, the improvement of strength is not small. This made Bai Ye have this idea again. At the same time, at the Rogue Town naval base, in the office, a man was wearing a Navy justice coat, with his right leg on his left knee, holding a big cigarette, and puffing out smoke from his mouth. This is Smoker, who was awarded the rank of Colonel of the Navy headquarters, and was responsible for guarding the entrance to the Grand Line from the East China Sea. As the first student of the same period who came out of the elite training camp of the Navy headquarters, and also a natural fruit ability user, Smoker's future is bright. Just after graduating from the training camp, He sat in Rogue Town at the entrance of the Grand Line. Such treatment is not available to everyone. With Smoker's strength, it is not a problem to suppress the entire East China Sea. He just had to guard Rogue Town and could not act on his own. Otherwise, he would have brought people to clear out the East China Sea pirates one by one. At this time, Smoker was holding the intelligence transmitted from other naval branches in the East China Sea. Navy Lieutenant Bai Ye single-handedly defeated the strongest pirate group in the East China Sea, the Creek Pirates. The title was very conspicuous in the intelligence. After a quick check, Smoker couldn't help but fall into thought, who is this Bai Ye? It only took Bai Ye about half a month to go from obscurity to fame in the East China Sea. Almost all the pirates with a little fame in the East China Sea died tragically at the hands of Bai Ye. From this point of view, it is not an exaggeration to say that Bai Ye is a hero. But Bai Ye killed the rat colonel of the 16th branch. But Bai Ye's identity became confusing. Navy Lieutenant? Are you really a Navy? Just when Smoker was racking his brains for Bai Ye's identity, Bai Ye had already set foot on the journey to Windmill Village with Creek and Ajin. Regardless of whether the operation to kill Luffy succeeds or not, Bai Ye will not delay in the East China Sea any longer. 2 days later, they successfully arrived at Windmill Village. Crick, Kin, your appearances are too easy to recognize. Change them. Yes, sir. Crick and Kin controlled their facial muscles and made subtle adjustments. After the adjustments, they could not see the shadow of the past at all. This is also one of the abilities brought by monster cells. Looking at the two completely unfamiliar faces, Bai Ye thought for a while and said, since you have changed your appearance, from now on, change your names as well. Bai Ye divided the monsters into 4 levels according to the method of rating monsters in One Punch Man: God, Dragon, Ghost, and Tiger. Based on the current strength of Crick and Kin, Bai Ye called them Ghost 1 and Ghost 2. If judged by the bounty amount, both of them should belong to the big pirates with a bounty of hundreds of millions. Now go and see the future Pirate King. If he still has a future. Chapter 21 Long Live NT People. Before going to Windmill Village, Bai Ye arranged for Kobe to go to Ski Island to find Colonel Vaughn and let Colonel Vaughn teach him well. This can be regarded as satisfying Kobe's dream of becoming a Navy. After all, he has too many secrets, and it is not very convenient for Kobe to follow. After dealing with these chores, Bai Ye took Oni and Oni second to Windmill Village. In Windmill Village, the three of them quickly found the banquet tavern that Luffy often went to, which was the tavern opened by Makino. 3 guests, what kind of wine do you want? As soon as the 3 came in, Makino took the initiative to ask. When Bai Ye saw Makino, he felt the oncoming affinity. A capable worksuit, dark green short hair, fair face, and big eyes that seemed to be able to speak greatly shortened the distance between people. And Makino is kind and gentle, and is definitely the most perfect candidate for a wife. No wonder it is said that the purpose of Red Hair running to Windmill Village is not to seduce Luffy to become a pirate, but for Makino. You're right. They're all greedy and cheap. Seeing that Bai Ye hadn't replied for a long time, Makino looked up at Bai Ye and found that Bai Ye was looking at him without hiding his eyes. His face flushed, and he felt his cheeks getting hot. He lowered his head and asked again in a low voice. After hearing Makino's question, Bai Ye finally reacted and smiled. Sorry, I was distracted by something just now, so I went to your signature bar. Makino looked at Bai Ye's smile, and his face flushed even more. Even the roots of his ears were a little red. He responded softly, and then hurriedly went to get the wine. Seeing Makino's cute panic, Bai Ye chuckled and said, as expected, he is handsome, and can get a good meal anywhere. If it was the ugly man staring at Makino just now, although Makino wouldn't be angry with his personality, he would never look embarrassed. Makino put the wine on the table in front of Bai Ye, and went back to the counter to wipe the wine glass. Whenever Makino looked up, and saw Bai Ye smiling at her, she felt her heart fluttering. She almost dropped the wine glass she was wiping several times. Bai Ye exuded a mysterious feeling that made people immersed in it unconsciously. Just as Makino was thinking about something, a magnetic voice suddenly rang in her ear. Boss, your wine is delicious. Can you give me another glass? Makino, who was thinking about it, was startled, and her hand subconsciously loosened, and the wine glass slipped down, and was about to fall to the ground. Makino exclaimed, "Wine glass," and wanted to reach out to grab it. But at this time, her heart was already in chaos, and her movements became much clumsy. Instead of catching the wine glass, her feet slipped, and the whole person fell backwards. Bai Ye took a step forward without thinking, put his right hand around Makino's slender waist, and grabbed the dropped wine glass with his left hand. At this moment, an unusually heroic voice came from the door. "Makino, serve us wine according to the usual standards." A group of people dressed in rather strange clothes filed in from the door, and they seemed to be very familiar with the tavern. But after this group of people came in, they saw Bai Ye hugging Makino, and the scene suddenly became quiet. After Makino stood up, Bai Ye pulled his hand out and looked at the group of people in front of him. Red hair, only the right arm left, and a long sword on the waist. Such a vivid image, anyone who has seen One Piece can recognize it at a glance. One of the four emperors, Red Hair Shanks. He was accompanied by some cadres of the Red Hair Pirates, Ben Beckman, Jesus Boo, Lakilo and others. This guy flirted with Makino in front of the red-haired man. This courage is probably unique in the pirate world. Bai Ye was looking at Shanks, and Shanks was also looking at Bai Ye. This young man was a little hard to see through. When noticing the change in Bai Ye's eyes, the red-haired man thought, "This guy recognized me. He shouldn't be from this village, right?" Makino's face flushed, and she whispered to Bai Ye to thank him, and then served wine to Shanks and others. Bai Ye also returned to his seat, and continued to drink, feeling a little frustrated. It seemed that the plan had failed again. It was okay to flirt with Makino in front of Shanks, but if he killed Luffy, who had not yet grown up, in front of Shanks, he would probably be courting death. Lakilu picked up the wine glass, and drank it all, then laughed. "Ha ha ha, boss is heartbroken," and he watched Makino being seduced by someone else. What a loser. Red Hair stiffened his neck and offended. "Who said I was heartbroken?" I asked Makino, "and what just happened was just an accident." "Accident? Boss, can you stop deceiving yourself? You saw how red Makino's face was just now. Get out of here, get out of here. I said it was an accident." "Ha ha ha, you're anxious, boss." Lakilu and others laughed at Red Hair wantonly, and every word they said hit Red Hair's sore spot. The crew members laughing at the captain can be regarded as the unique corporate culture of the Red Hair Pirates. At this moment, a voice full of surprise rang out at the door of the tavern. "Shanks." A figure rushed into the tavern, came to Shanks' side, and said with longing, "What pirate story are you going to tell me this time you come back?" Shanks looked at the people around him and smiled. "Luffy, you have grown a lot during this period of time." "Of course." Ben Beckman asked with a smile. "Luffy, you are about to become an adult, right?" Luffy said casually, "Yes, there is still a year and a half left. When I become an adult, I will go to sea. I'm the man who wants to become the Pirate King." Luffy's words are full of confidence, as if becoming the Pirate King is something that he will definitely be able to achieve. Luffy and Shanks and others have known each other for many years. They are very familiar with each other and chat enthusiastically. Is this Luffy? Looking at Luffy swaying in front of him, Bai Ye's heart itches like a cat's claw. At this time, Luffy is no longer a human in Bai Ye's eyes, but an innumerable source of world power. As the son of destiny in the pirate world, the most core figure of One Piece, almost all the plots revolve around him. Once he kills it, Bai Ye feels that he can at least obtain 100,000 world source powers, and maybe he can directly increase the fusion degree to more than 50%. Unfortunately, Red Hair is here, so this idea is impossible to achieve. Luffy is indeed the son of destiny. When he came here a few days ago, Garp was in Windmill Village, so Bai Ye returned empty-handed. After waiting for Garp to leave, Bai Ye just arrived at Windmill Village, and Red Hair also came, making Bai Ye's plan go down the drain again. Bai Ye couldn't help but sigh softly. This can also be regarded as the protection of the world. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 Night Organization. Is it coming for me? How did it disappear? Was it an illusion? Red hair suddenly felt a faint murderous intent. Although it disappeared quickly, it still caught his attention. When Red Hair was puzzled, Ben Beckman frowned and pushed Red Hair silently. As the vice captain and sniper of the Red Hair pirates, Beckman's senses were also very sharp. He also felt the murderous intent just now. Red Hair and Beckman looked at each other, and they were even more certain that the feeling just now was not an illusion. Red Hair's expression did not change, and he asked in a low voice, "Who do you think wants to deal with us?" Beckman shook his head, indicating that he didn't know either. The murderous intent just now dissipated too quickly, and they didn't pay much attention to it because of the noise here. "I don't know too much, but I think those three guys are suspicious." Red Hair pointed in the direction of Bai Ye and the other two. Beckman looked in the direction the red-haired man pointed and was immediately amused. He said with a smile, "Captain, are you sure you are not picking on him on purpose because he seduced Makino?" The red-haired man said unhappily, I've already said it was an accident just now. Besides, am I so petty?" After teasing the red-haired man, Beckman returned to his serious look. "Why do you think there is something wrong with him? I really think that guy is a bit weird. The way he looked at me before seemed to recognize me. You know, I'm one of the 4 emperors of the New World. Ordinary people would be so scared to walk when they hear my name, but that guy recognized me, and he could still drink there so calmly." After hearing what the red-haired man said, Beckman also felt that there was something wrong with this kid. "Since you are not sure, I will try him," Beckman advised. "Well, this is also a way, but you must be careful not to burst out too strong. Garp doesn't know we are in Windmill Village yet. If that old guy knows, we will be in trouble." Although the red hair pirates are not afraid of Garp, they don't want to provoke a strong man like Garp. After all, it is very troublesome to be targeted by such a strong man. One-on-one, Garp is not afraid of you. If there are more people with Garp's reputation in the Navy, he can at least bring in a person with the strength of an admiral, plus some vice admirals and major generals. This Linoop is no worse than a 4 emperors group. After Bai Ye finished drinking the wine, he was about to leave when he saw Red Hair walking towards him with a wine glass, and he knew that he might not be able to leave. He didn't expect Red Hair to be so sensitive to killing intent. He only exposed a little bit before and was noticed by Red Hair, but there is nothing he can do about it. In the past half month, more than 10 pirate groups have been destroyed by Bai Ye. After dealing with so many people, Bai Ye's control over the killing intent is naturally no longer as precise as before, and it will take some time to settle. Since he has been discovered, he can only think of a way to deal with it. The temperament exuded by Red Hair is very ordinary, just like Leo Wang next door, and there is no difference at all in normal times. If Bai Ye did not know Red Hair's identity, he really couldn't connect Red Hair with the pirate emperor. "My friend, you look a little unfamiliar. You should not be from Windmill Village, right?" "Yes, I just arrived at Windmill Village today, and I think this place is very good." Bai Ye finished the wine in the glass. "The wine is delicious, and the boss lady is also very beautiful. I like it very much." There is no direct relationship between Red Hair and Makino. At most, they have some good feelings for each other. Before, they were just joking as companions. But when he heard Bai Ye say this in front of him, no matter how good-tempered Red Hair was, he felt a little unhappy. "What is your purpose in coming to Windmill Village?" In his words, Red Hair subconsciously burst out with a trace of domineering aura. Although the momentum was very weak, it was extremely strong. The whole person was like a lone boat thrown into an endless storm, letting the waves beat, and the wind and waves raging, but still floating on the water. Under the impact of this momentum, the tables and chairs around Bai Ye suddenly cracked, and the hem of his clothes moved without wind, but his expression did not change at all. Bai Ye did not answer Red Hair's question, and said calmly, as expected of one of the 4 emperors, "This momentum alone can crush many people to death." "You really recognized me. Who are you?" The murderous intent in Red Hair's eyes flashed, and the momentum that burst out was fleeting. Red Hair was very curious about Bai Ye's identity. Navy? Pirates? A special organization of the world government? Or someone from the underground world? Red Hair didn't want to make a move in Makino's tavern, nor did he want the people of Windmill Village to know his true identity. Let's go out and talk. Okay. Bai Ye agreed readily, and he didn't want to stay here. The reason is simple. There are too many strong people here. If a fight really breaks out, it will be inconvenient to escape. Bai Ye is not stupid. He doesn't think his current strength can match Red Hair. But after seeing the red-haired man, a bold idea came into Bai Ye's mind. The two walked out of the tavern side by side, heading towards the sparsely populated coast. The departure of the two had no effect on the tavern, which was still bustling and noisy. When they arrived at the shore, the two stopped and looked at each other. Can you tell me now? Bai Ye looked at the red-haired man who was ready to attack at any time, with a normal expression, and smiled. Let me introduce myself. My name is Harry, from Night. Bai Ye was not going to reveal his real name. He used a trumpet when he went out, and he was so cautious. Night? The red-haired man frowned, and his doubts became even greater. This is the name of our organization. Our people are all over the world. Some are responsible for collecting intelligence, and some are responsible for selling it. And I'm the one who is responsible for selling it. Intelligence dealer. Why haven't I heard of your organization in the New World? Our organization was established not long ago, so naturally I haven't heard of big figures like you. Red Hair didn't fully believe Bai Ye's explanation, and asked, so you came to me this time, do you have intelligence to sell to me? For someone like you who is at the top of the world, you are naturally our biggest buyer. Bai Ye saw that Red Hair still didn't trust him, but he was also prepared for this situation. After all, the one who can become the pirate emperor, in addition to having extraordinary strength, his own brain calculations will not be too low. Even Kaido, who looks like a psychopath, has a lot of tricks. Not to mention the only man who became the pirate emperor without relying on the devil fruit. Bai Ye smiled and said, for special users like you, we will give you a piece of information you don't know for free to show our sincerity. There's news that I don't know? Then I really need to listen carefully. If I have heard this news, or if it makes me dissatisfied, you will not be able to leave the island alive today. The red-haired man's words revealed endless murderous intent. Chapter 23 Emperor Engine. Bai Ye did not take Red Hair's threat seriously, because he was sure that this news would be enough to shock Red Hair. This news is about the former pirate King Roger. Did you know that Roger has a child? Bai Ye's calm words fell into Red Hair's ears, but it was like thunder exploding in his ears. Captain Roger. Captain Roger has a child? Impossible. When the Roger pirates announced the disbandment, Captain Roger surrendered a year later. If there was a child, how could I not know? And after Captain Roger was executed, the Navy searched for several months on Betrayal Island, where Captain Roger was, but found no trace of the child at all. Even the world government is not aware of this information, and you say you know? Do you think I will believe you just saying a piece of news? When mentioning Roger, Red Hair directly drew out Griffin and pointed the sword at Bai Ye, with murderous intent on his body, as if he was going to kill Bai Ye right here in the next moment. The originally clear sky suddenly became gloomy, with countless dark clouds covering the sky and dark purple lightning appearing and disappearing in the dark clouds. The information sold by our night organization is of course absolutely true. Shrouded by the domineering aura of Red Hair, Bai Ye pretended to be calm on the surface, but in his mind he was constantly thinking about how to escape unscathed if Red Hair attacked. At this moment, the system prompt sound suddenly rang in his mind. Congratulations to the host for achieving the achievement famous in the East China Sea, and reward 500 points of world source power. Bai Ye has been slaughtering pirates these days, making his reputation spread widely in the East China Sea. He accidentally completed one of the methods to increase world source power. Host, Bai Ye. Template, One Punch Man, Saitama, Fusion Degree. 8%, world source power. 645. At this moment, Bai Ye did not hesitate at all, and the stronger he could be, the better. Fusion Degree 8% minus 9%, requires world source power. 280. Fusion Degree 9% minus 10%, requires world source power. 350. Congratulations to the host for reaching 10% fusion degree. You can randomly draw special abilities of the strong in the One Punch Man world. Damn, there is such a good thing. Bai Ye was overjoyed. Drawing completed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ability of S-Class Hero King. Emperor Engine. Emperor Engine can make the host's heart beat violently and emit a shocking heartbeat sound. It increases with the increase of the host's fusion degree. I'm so stupid. At such a critical moment, you don't give me a practical special skill, but give me such a show. If red hair wasn't right in front of him, Bai Ye could scold the system for an hour, and it wouldn't be repeated. Seeing red hair was about to kill him at a disagreement, Bai Ye could only treat the dead horse as a living horse. Business is about making money through harmony. Why do we need to fight and kill? The next moment, the Emperor Engine was used directly. As Bai Ye's heart beat rapidly, boom, boom, boom. The sound of the heartbeat became faster and faster, and louder. Bai Ye looked directly at the red-haired man's eyes full of murderous intent, and he seemed very calm. The red-haired man listened to the heartbeat, and felt that his heart was held by an invisible big hand, squeezing along with Bai Ye's heartbeat. The two seemed to want to reach the same frequency, and there was an indescribable depression. This was a feeling he had never experienced before. An unnatural red color appeared on the red-haired man's face, and his whole body was stagnant. At the same time, an invincible momentum rose from Bai Ye's body, and the dark clouds in the sky suddenly changed. Invisible sound waves spread to the sky, dispersing the dark clouds. The sky returned to its usual clearness, and the warm sunshine shone down again, as if the dark clouds had never appeared before. Bai Ye looked at the changes in front of him, and was very excited. Damn, I didn't expect this Emperor Engine to be so powerful. It was almost a different kind of Conqueror Haki. What kind of weird ability is this? My Conqueror Haki was actually broken. The red-haired man's face was gloomy. Even though he didn't show the strongest Conqueror Haki just now, with the momentum he just exuded, the entire sea could be broken by no more than 2 hands. Harry from the knight in front of him could actually do it, which made him feel that this organization might be extraordinary. Mr. Shanks, don't be so excited. If you start fighting and lure Vice Admiral Garp here, I'm afraid you will be in big trouble. The red-haired man said coldly, I didn't expect you to have such strength. Bai Ye knew that he should be safe, and he finally breathed a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, to dare to come to the 4 emperors to do business, you naturally need a stronger person. Wait until I tell you the news completely, and you will naturally be able to judge whether it is true or false. After seeing Bai Ye's strength, the red-haired man was also a little unsure of the strength of the Knight organization. Harry is not weak. What about the other members of the Knight organization? Isn't the leader of this organization even more powerful? Such a mysterious organization suddenly appeared on the sea. Who knows what kind of storm it will cause? Seeing that the red-haired man didn't say anything, Bai Ye continued. Roger did have a child before the execution, but it was not born yet. At that time, the Navy was searching for Roger's bloodline on Betrayal Island. In order to avoid the child being killed, Roger's wife Portgastiluju carried the child for 20 months. It was not until the Navy withdrew the search that she gave birth. Because of this, after the child was born, Portgastiluju was too weak and died of exhaustion. When Bai Ye mentioned that Roger's wife was Portgastiluju, a young man wearing an orange sun hat and with some freckles on his face suddenly flashed through the red-haired man's mind. Garp's grandson, Portgastiace. The red-haired man completely understood Captain Roger's move to give his only child to Garp to raise. Garp and Roger are old friends who have fought countless times. More than 30 years ago, the two of them joined forces to defeat the strongest rocks pirates at the time. Garp was also awarded the title of Navy Hero for this. The relationship between the two, who are both enemies and friends, is very complicated, but also very strong. This news is probably true. Red Hair is in a complicated mood now. He didn't expect that the child he had seen several times before was actually the captain's flesh and blood. When I came this time, I heard from Luffy that Ace had already gone out to sea to become a pirate with the dream of becoming the Pirate King. Captain Roger gave Ace to Garp to take care of. In addition to trust, he probably wanted Ace to become a navy and not repeat his mistakes. But who would have thought that Ace would become a pirate under Garp's guidance? Bai Ye looked at Red Hair's somewhat disappointed expression and knew that Red Hair believed what he said. Since you have made a judgment on the authenticity of the information, my mission this time is over. If you want to purchase intelligence in the future, just spread the news and look for the Night Organization, and someone will naturally come to you to trade. Goodbye. Chapter 24 Garp's Fury. Not far from the windmill village, a huge Navy warship with a seagull flag flying high was sailing on the sea. The front structure of the warship was a funny looking pug holding a bone, which made the whole ship extremely abrupt. But it was such a slightly funny ship that frightened the pirates in the New World. Damn Sengoku, you still impose tasks on me when I'm resting with my grandson. You're really a piece of shit. When I go back, I must eat up all the rice crackers in your drawer and make you mad to death. And that red-haired kid is not a good thing either. He didn't stay in the New World, but had to come to the East China Sea with the whole group, delaying my vacation so that I couldn't even teach my grandson properly. An old man wearing a dog head hat, nearly 3 meters tall, burly and powerful, kept yelling and cursing. Adjutant Bogart felt helpless when he saw Garp cursing. He was obviously an old man of nearly 70 years old, but he was more powerful than a young man when he cursed. The soldiers around pretended not to hear anything. This kind of thing happened at least 3 or 4 times a week. They were used to Garp's frivolous appearance. While Garp was cursing, Bogart hurriedly asked, "Vice Admiral Garp, don't say these words anymore. Now it's more important to find the red hair pirates. This is the Four Emperors pirate group. They actually came to the weakest East China Sea. They must have some plan. Should we notify the Navy on each island to take precautions?" Hearing this, Garp rolled his eyes at Bogart and said unhappily, "What will happen if we notify them? Can the soldiers on the East China Sea islands withstand the impact of the red hair pirates? It's better to keep it like this. Notifying them will cause them to be overly nervous and cause unnecessary trouble." As expected of Vice Admiral Garp, you think far ahead. Bogart quickly flattered him. Humph. Garp crossed his arms, raised his chin slightly, and looked quite complacent. Doesn't Bogart understand this principle? In fact, he understands it better than anyone else. With Garp's unreliable personality, he doesn't care about anything at all. Usually, the orders issued by the Navy and all the major and minor affairs on the ship are all handled by Bogart. Bogart said this just because he was afraid that Garp would continue to scold. It has been 3 hours, and Garp's mouth is not tired, but his ears are tired. Just as the two were talking, they suddenly saw the weather in front of the left suddenly change from cloudless to dark clouds in an instant, and even the fangs and claws of the thunder dragon could be seen in the gloomy clouds. As Garp's adjutant, Bogart has also followed Garp for many years. Having seen countless strong people, he knew what this was at a glance. This is domineering haki. The effect caused. There is no doubt that the only man who can release domineering haki in the East China Sea now is that man. One of the 4 emperors, red-haired Shanks. Garp looked at the gloomy sky and murmured, "What is going on?" Red Hair actually displayed conqueror's haki in the East China Sea. Did he encounter a powerful enemy? Or is there an unknown strongman lurking in the East China Sea? Red Hair came for him this time. Just as Garp was thinking, a soldier came forward to report, "Vice Admiral Garp, that seems to be the direction of Windmill Village." "What? You mean the red hair pirates are now in Windmill Village?" Garp's face was full of disbelief. A few days ago, he had to end his vacation because he received the news that the red hair pirates appeared in the East China Sea. He left Windmill Village and looked for the traces of the red hair pirates in the East China Sea. As a result, he found nothing in the past few days. But you tell me that the red hair pirates are in my hometown. What in Windmill Village can attract the attention of the red hair pirates? Could it be that red hair knows the true identity of Ace? Impossible. No one else can know this news except me. Who else could red hair target? Could it be Luffy? Thinking of this, Garp had a flash of inspiration in his mind. Why is the straw hat behind Luffy so familiar? There is always a sense of deja vu. Isn't that Roger's straw hat? Speaking of this, Garp suddenly thought of a piece of news more than 10 years ago. At that time, Red Hair lost his left arm after going to the East China Sea. A dignified 4 emperors actually lost an arm in the weakest East China Sea. This was a big news at the time. The Red Hair pirates did not give any explanation for this. In addition, Red Hair's strength is still strong, so this matter has been left unresolved. But since then, every time Garp goes back to Windmill Village for vacation, he can see his grandson Luffy wearing an ordinary straw hat. It was also from that time that Luffy kept shouting that he wanted to be the man of the Pirate King and go out to sea to become a pirate. Garp was so angry that he beat Luffy for so many years. But no matter how he beat him, Luffy was determined to become a pirate like a turtle eating a weight. This also made Garp very depressed. Good fellow, today I finally found the reason. It turns out that the problem, it's with red hair. Every time I come back to teach my grandson to be a good navy, after I leave, red hair comes to persuade Luffy to become a pirate, spread the benefits of becoming a pirate, and make his teaching fall short. This red hair has been playing a big game since 10 years ago. The more Garp thought about this matter, the clearer it became, and the angrier he became. Garp said angrily, "Go full speed towards the direction of Windmill Village, and be sure to catch the red hair pirates. I want to let this damn Shanks taste the power of my Iron Fist." At this time, Bai Ye, with Ghost 1 and Ghost 2, was already heading towards Rogue Town. There was less than a week left before the deadline for the gathering, and the time should be about right. Although the trip to Windmill Village did not achieve the final goal, and he almost had a fight with red hair. But for Bai Ye, this action was not a failure. The night organization originally mentioned to red hair. It was just that Bai Ye made up one with his own name in a hurry. But thinking about it carefully, this organization might really be necessary to exist. As a time traveler, his biggest advantage besides the system is the plot knowledge in his mind. By cleverly using this plot knowledge, he might be able to obtain a large amount of world source power. The emergence of the Night Organization just provides a reasonable source for this information. At that time, even if the strong people from other worlds are summoned, they can be stuffed into the Night Organization. This will make the Night Organization more mysterious and powerful. It can be said to kill two birds with one stone. The more Bai Ye thought about it, the more he felt that he was really a genius. Chapter 25, Battle Against Smoker. Rogue Town, known as the Town of Beginning and End, is located in the East China Sea, near the entrance of the Grand Route. There was only one day left before the deadline for reporting, and Bai Ye finally caught up. Bai Ye arrived at the Rogue Town naval base to report. The soldier on duty looked at the ID in his hand and said in surprise, "Bai Ye, are you Bai Ye?" "Yes, isn't my name written on the ID?" Bai Ye smiled. The soldier on duty kept looking at Bai Ye. He could never associate the handsome and gentle man in front of him with the Bai Ye who was called the Butcher by the East China Sea pirates. "Can I go in now?" Oh. Hearing Ye's words, the soldier on duty came back to his senses and quickly handed the ID in his hand to Bai Ye. He said in a tone full of admiration, "You are really a role model for our navy. As a navy, these are just what I should do." Bai Ye did not think he was so noble. He took the initiative to kill these pirates just to obtain the world source power for himself. But for these low-level navy soldiers, they don't think so. In their opinion, someone like Bai Ye, who is very capable and has a promising future, is willing to risk his life to kill pirates everywhere before leaving. This has greatly reduced the danger in the East China Sea. In other words, Bai Ye has saved the lives of countless navy soldiers invisibly. He deserves their admiration. "Colonel Smoker, Bai Ye is here to report." Hearing Bai Ye's name, Smoker's eyes flashed with a gleam. Good guy, he finally waited for it. Before, he found Bai Ye's name on the list of applicants for the Navy Elite Training Camp and thought it was just a coincidence. But after he contacted Colonel Thorne, he confirmed that the Navy captain on this list, Bai Ye, was the Bai Ye who became famous in the East China Sea. So he always wanted to see what kind of person this was. "Let Bai Ye come to me." "Yes. Forget it, I'll go find him myself." Bai Ye walked in the naval base, like a panda being watched in a zoo. Whether it is the Navy stationed in Rogue Town or the soldiers who came from other naval bases to participate in the Naval Elite Training Camp, they all want to see what this man called the Butcher by the pirates looks like. A burly man said to his companion beside him, "Is this the Butcher Bai Ye? Not very similar, right? Looking at his frail appearance, I feel like I can kill two with one punch." "Yeah, he is too thin. Shouldn't Bai Ye be a 3 meter tall, fat-faced, and burly man? Could this be a fake?" A female soldier on the side said indignantly, "Do you think Bai Ye is the same as you? Simple-minded, well-developed limbs, and nothing in his brain except muscles? That's right, if you have the ability, go and destroy a pirate group alone. This Bai Ye is so handsome, just based on his face, I think his strength should be the same as the rumors." Although these people spoke in a low voice, Bai Ye had good ears and heard everything they said. "Good man, as long as the brother is handsome, the world will follow his appearance." When Smoker arrived, he saw a group of people surrounding Bai Ye. "Why are you all here if you are not going to train? Do you have nothing to do? Have you caught all the pirates around Rogue Town?" Hearing Smoker's slightly serious tone, the people around him immediately dispersed and hurried to do their own things. When Smoker saw Bai Ye, he was also shocked by Bai Ye's young appearance. However, he did not care too much about this matter, but looked at Bai Ye's eyes with a serious expression. Bai Ye was also looking at Smoker, with short silver hair, his shirt open, his chest completely exposed, a circle of cigars wrapped around his waist, and two-seased and 10-handed sword stuck behind him. This is also one of the few Navy characters that Bai Ye has met who is relatively important in the original work. Smoker frowned and said, "You killed Colonel Mouse and more than 100 of his soldiers on the Orange and Windmill Island, right?" "Yes, I killed them." Bai Ye readily admitted this, which was beyond Smoker's expectation. "Don't you have anything to say? Shouldn't you give me a reasonable explanation? Wantonly killing a Navy lieutenant and more than 100 Navy officers is a serious crime. I suppressed this matter. If it was reported, I would probably be imprisoned in Pushin City." Bai Ye sneered, "What's there to say? They wanted to kill me, so I killed them. Besides, don't you think they shouldn't be killed? The allied dragon pirates have been bullying the Kokoja village for more than 10 years. Many people have died at the hands of Arlong in the past 10 years. And you, as the colonel of the Rogue Town Naval Base, are in charge of all the navy in the East China Sea. But this incident took so long to happen. Don't you think this incident has a lot to do with you? I helped you deal with the termites in the navy, and now you want to punish me?" Smoker was speechless by Bai Ye's words. After a moment of silence, he said, "You are right, I do have a lot of responsibility for this matter. But you can choose to report this matter, and we will naturally deal with those who collude with the dragon pirates." Bai Ye sneered and said mercilessly, "Is your head full of shit?" Smoker said angrily, "Captain Bai Ye, watch your words. You are talking to your superior now. Talk. I just want to talk to you with my fists now." As soon as Bai Ye finished speaking, his figure disappeared from Smoker's sight, and the next moment, a punch went straight to Smoker's head. The speed is so fast. Smoker was shocked. He didn't expect Bai Ye's speed to be so fast. If this punch hit, he would probably be seriously injured if not killed. The friction between the fist and the air made a harsh sound of breaking through the air. Before the fist arrived, the strong wind brought by it blew Smoker's shirt rustling. Although Bai Ye was only a lieutenant, Smoker didn't dare to underestimate him. After all, the reputation of defeating more than a dozen pirate groups by himself is not exaggerated. He is also a strong man who has fought through blood and rain. At this moment, it was too late for Smoker to dodge, so he could only activate the power of the fruit immediately. Bai Ye hit Smoker's head with a punch, and the whole fist sank into it, but it seemed to hit a ball of air, and Smoker's head turned into smoke and scattered. With both hands, he pulled out the 10 hands of sea stone from his waist, and chopped them down fiercely, covering Bai Ye from the left and right. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.